I think our son is possessed by the horrors.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know which horror. Maybe the eye. He's just always watching me. Every time I turn around, there's Aussie eyes staring into my soul.
Yes.
If you're having ghost problems, I feel bad for you, son. I've got 99 problems, but a ghost ain't one. The horrors be out there, but I'm prepared. I got my flashlight, so I'm not scared. No ghosts. Stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the ghosts. They're stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the ghoulies. Stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the horrors. Stupid motherfuckers.
Joel, do you hear that?
I'm not sure. I think so. It's getting a little louder.
That persistent heartbeat? You don't hear it?
Oh, wait, now it's getting louder. Yeah, I can hear it.
Oh, God. Oh, what is that? Oh, we're all gonna die!
Splorch!
Was that the sound of my heart being ripped out?
That was the sound of the monster, yes.
Splorch.
Yeah.
That was a terrifying sound.
Listen, if you were in the dark and your hand touched something that was wetter than it should be, and you heard splorch, you would throw up. You would immediately be out of there.
Yeah, the onomatopoeia represented by splorch, I would be upset about. But the word, if I reached out and touched something and it just said splorch, I'd be like, what the f*** is that? Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Now? Episode 5, Part 1, Season 3, recap of the Magnus Archives. This is, in fact, the one show where we know that if you are fleeing the horrors, the best thing you can do is be too neurodivergent to know that you should be spooked.
That's twice in a row now that we've had that theme show up.
It keeps happening, and this is why I told you I would probably survive the horrors. Haley Whipjack might have said, no, I die sexy, but I don't die sexy. I live sexy.
I see. Okay, yeah, fantastic. And
oh, yeah.
You?
I'm your host, Kat, and I am not scared of the dark. I'm not. I don't have to hide under my blankets.
Okay. I'm not afraid of you. You're not going to get me, darkness monster.
There's nothing out there. Did you ever see the original Nightmare on Elm Street?
No.
Okay, the way they defeat Freddy Krueger is they're like, it's not real, it's just a dream.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the episode of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy that was the inspiration for
of course.
That movie.
So I imagine that if you tried to yell that at, like, Michael McTwisty, he would laugh you out of the room.
Yeah. I absolutely, I think that he would.
I'm not sure who I'm talking to. Can you?
I am the co-host who was never there. Once upon a time, I sat upon the stair, and then I looked up at the stars, but I was never there.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, the original poem is actually one of my favorites.
You heard it before the actual...
Yeah, that's why I was quoting it along with the episode when we were listening. You actually, were like, shush, why are you doing that?
It's hard to listen to something when someone else is saying, the words, just slightly out of sync.
I had a book of scary stories as a kid, and this was in there, and I read this poem, over and over again. I loved it a lot.
I see. I wish that I had not panicked. I wish that I had one prepared for, I'm your co-host, Joel. But, it's on the record now. We can't undo it. There's no way to edit this in any way, shape, or form. So, I guess now we're in it.
Who
are you? Hang on, wait. Let me look at these episodes. What did we talk about? Oh, you know what? I'm your co-host, Joel, and because of my association with the horrors, I actually have the power for people to give me their snacks. Give me their snacks.
Them their snacks.
Them their snacks go into them mouth.
I didn't know your mouth used them pronouns. I'm glad that your association with the horrors has changed you into what you always knew you should be.
Absolutely.
See, John is all like, ooh, woo, am I even human anymore? Who wants to be a fucking human, you piece of shit baby? But we'll get into that.
I'd rather be a unicorn.
Yeah, why a unicorn of all the mythical creatures?
Well, okay, so out of all of them, I'd probably want to be a dragon, but that's a little extra. I guess unicorns are pretty extra, too. So I've talked about on the podcast before, I really like rainbows, and I just want to be a majestic, multicolored being,
Yeah, don't let your memes be dreams,
Yeah, I'll just grow an extra horn.
No,
an
I'm
extra
saying,
horn
I
out of
saw
my head.
somebody today in this enormous pair of flowing clown pants that were like 1,000 different colors, and I went, that's a woman wearing those pants, but my husband would also wear them. So I'm saying if you want to dress like a clown, go buy some brightly colored clothes, run away to join the circus, and slowly become a mannequin.
No, I don't want to do that, actually. I don't want to become a mannequin.
Oh.
I want to be a unicorn, if anything.
I'm a meanicorn. You be a unicorn.
Okay.
We're off to a great start.
Yes, neither of us are sick. We are not recording. I mean, it's not that late, but it's going to be late by the end of this
Our last 2 episodes were 2 hours long, so we gotta get it together. Nobody wants to listen to us for 2 hours except for us.
Fair enough. Now, sometimes we do a discussion question, sometimes we forget, but I actually have one this time.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, we've seen a couple of these books that represent the horrors or can snatch people. And, you know, we've seen a version of that's about the sickness. We've seen a version that is about, I think we've read one about the darkness. We've read one about, like, claustrophobia, whatever that monster's called. What would a book from The Spiral look like? Michael McTwisty.
Oh, I didn't anticipate the direction you were going with that question. I had an answer prepared for the eye. If The Spiral had a book, I think it would be one of those, like, you know those books where you look at, the optical illusion books, where, like, you stare at it long enough and the picture changes into something else.
Okay, does it constantly shift? Is that kind of the thing? So,
yeah,
like, okay.
yeah, and the person would be like, I know there's something here if I look at it in just the right way, but, like, I can't, and they'd get increasingly obsessed with it.
They'd only be able to see it, like, when they were looking away, but then when they looked back at it, it would be gone. They'd be like, what? I like that. I came up with one. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book. And, you know, you go to the page 2. I have 2 different versions of this. One is you go to page 2, and it says, if you choose to take a left, go to page 3. If you choose to beat up the mascot, go to page 5. But when you go to page 5, it wouldn't be you taking that action. It would be like a completely different story. And you'd be like, what? And you'd flip back, and it would say, if you want to go left, page 3. If you want to beat up the mascot, page 5. And this time when you go to page 5, it is the right story. And you have this moment of like, didn't I... Okay, I must have gone to the wrong page. And it just messes with you by constantly having numbers up. It tells you to go to page 18. There's no page 18. It goes from 16 to 21. And you're like, what?
I love that. I love that. Inspired, of course, by us definitely not cheating at the FNAF interactive novels.
Absolutely. The other idea that I had, choose your own adventure book that's just like a generic, like, you're on an adventure, you're looking for the treasure chest, but it slowly gets more and more personal and starts talking about you. So you flip to a page, it's like, you killed your mother, and it names your mom by first name, and you're like, what?
Do you want to hear my idea I had for the eye, if it had a book?
Yes.
Okay, so the first couple pages would tell the reader people's thoughts about them, but it would be things that they could use to their advantage, right? So, like, your boss thinks that you're doing a really good job. It's a shame you have to ask for a raise or take these steps to get the raise. And then the person would do it, and they'd get the raise, and they'd be like, great success. But the things that they're reading would steadily get, like,
worse,
less and
more
less
personal.
Complimentary and more like everybody hates you.
Okay, yeah. I really like that. Now, you are the host with the most, the ghost who controls the frost. I tried. I really, really tried. Oh, you control the toast. The ghost with the most, the host of the show with the toast. Now...
Are you on drugs?
Would you... I'm on insulin to cure my... to treat my diabetes. Okay. Would you like to give a very broad summary of this season? Oh, by the way, we're covering episodes 61 through 80. No, 81 through 100. I am so messed up with the episode numbers. I'm not on drugs. I'm not messed up in that way. I promise. But we are covering the first half of season 3. And as a reminder, we have read ahead, so to speak. We've finished this season, but we're going to try very hard not to let our knowledge of future episodes color how we talk about these ones. But, Miss Host with the Toast, would you like to give a broad overview of these 20 episodes?
Absolutely. Extremely broad overview. John is suspected of murder, and he's on the run from the cops.
Staying with his friend Georgie.
And
her cat, the Admiral.
The Admiral, of course. We gotta talk about the Admiral, but we'll get to it. through a series of shenanigans, John ends up no longer on the run and back at the Magnus Institute.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit more to that. Like, so the Section 31 police and Tim, I get Tim and Martin mixed up all the time. I don't know why. But they suspect that John did it. Elias seems very confident that John will come back to the archives, and we of course know he's the one who did the murder. And then we also have John realizing that maybe he's not human anymore. And also, Melanie is back, and Melanie and Basira and Daisy, through various shenanigans, end up working at the Institute.
I love them as a throuple.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
That's not what this podcast is about, but I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
You know, I had a thought the other day, listening back to one of our episodes.
Okay.
Oh, this is what I was going to use to open the episode. I remember
We're 11
now.
minutes in. Is now the time
It's fine. I didn't tell you about this because I wanted it to be organic. Do you think people listen to our podcast and ship us?
What?
Do you think they listen and they're like, these two are so married, Your Honor?
I guess.
Like,
we are married.
We are married, but, like, do people support it?
Sound off in the comments if you support the heterosexual marriage of Joel and Kat.
John and Martin is a canon ship-ish.
Okay.
But it's wrong. It's the wrong ship. I don't ship it. You and I are canon in real life, but do people ship it?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Would they rather ship you with Curtis, the long-forgotten host of King of the What Now? Anyway,
Some say that he's gathering an army in a far-off land to one day show up and challenge us.
Who's saying that?
No, that's the rumors, like, on the streets.
I'll stop him.
Absolutely. So, what I was going to say is, do you want to give a broad overview of the episodes and then do the succinct summaries, or should we do succinct summaries and then we can give, like, a broad overview of the meta-narrative? It seems like you chose the second, so, whichever option it was.
Listen to me. We binged season 3 in kind of a mad, we can't stop rush.
We have problems with
podcasting.
moderation. Ask me how many hours I put into Devil May Cry in the last, like, week or so.
Do you even like that game?
I think it's growing on me. I really do.
Okay. Anyway, we listened to it all at once, which makes it very hard to pull out, this was the plot of this little section, because now I can only tell you the whole thing, so I feel like I did an admirable job.
You did a great job.
Thank you. And then you went back and you re-listened to the episodes we were going to discuss in this section. I forgot to do that. So I'm winging it, boss.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, the succinct summaries first would have been really helpful.
Well, the succinct summaries are only about what each main episode is about. It's not really going to go over, like...
Yeah, but it'll strike my, like, oh yeah, that puts together the meta-narrative.
I see, okay. Now, in the past, I think in the very first episode, I tried to go off of memory, just kind of, like, glancing at my notes every once in a while. I'm just going to stop pretending. I have written down my thoughts beforehand. These jokes might not sound organic because I've already written them, but it's better for me to go off the notes than to me sit here and go, was this the one about the haunted submarine? I don't remember. No, it's the one about the walrus with the gun. So, here we go. Episode 81, A Guest for Mr. Spider. This is Baby John's origin story. Damn it, Lightner. Episode 82, The Eyewitnesses. This is Daisy interviewing all of the people at the Institute, other than John, about whether John did the murder or
They're
not.
eyewitnesses!
Yes.
I was sitting here and I was like, they didn't witness the murder. They can't be eyewitnesses, but they're
I guess technically the first part of the episode is her doing the interview with Tim and Martin, and then, like, the main crux of the episode, the actual horror, is Elias reading Daisy's statement to Daisy. Not reading, just stating Daisy's statement to Daisy.
Yeah, well, and a witness in the religious sense is like, you know, a servant of a greater power. So Elias is the eye's witness.
Yeah. Episode 83, Drawing a Blank, Mannequins Haunted. We'll talk about this one in more detail. Episode 84, Possessive, Filthy, Filthy Boy. This is a super gross episode about a house that is, like, infected with disgust, and the person who owns it passes it on by literally rubbing someone's face in the grossness. I hated this episode. We'll talk about it. Episode 85, Upon the Stair. It's Michael McTwisty turning a man into a not man, basically. But not the same kind of not man as the stranger not man.
A different not man.
Yeah. Episode 86, Tucked In, A man is attacked by the darkness and tries to use his blanket for comfort and protection.
And it helps.
It does not work. Does not work.
Beans.
Episode 87, The Uncanny Valley. A plumber is called out to investigate a house. It's not a house, it's more like a factory. And the horrors are there. He doesn't notice at first, but then he does notice, and he barely manages to get away. Gertrude indicates that maybe he didn't actually get away.
And then the valley burns down.
The valley burns down. Episode 88, Dig. A man reads a book that just says dig over and over again, and he becomes obsessed with digging.
Dig.
Episode 89, Twice as Bright. John interviews a member of the Cult of the Lightless Flames who serves something called the Desolation. I can't remember if that's revealed in this episode or these sets of episodes, but I'm just going to say it.
And this is the one who was present during the Uncanny Valley episode.
Yes.
We'll get into it.
Episode 90, Body Builder. Do you remember Jared Hopsworth? You're telling me a bone turned this tail? He owns a gym now. That's
Good
it.
for him.
He owns a gym. The membership, it costs an arm and a leg. Episode 91, The Coming Storm. Do you remember how there used to be two Michaels and we had to call them Michael McTwisty and Michael McSkydaddy? It turns out that Michael McSkydaddy just goes by Mike now, and this is his statement of how he became Mike the McSkydaddy. Whoa, there's a lot of notes in this one. Episode 92, Nothing Beside Remains. This is an old, one of the before time stories of a man who crosses paths with a man named Mordecai Lucas, and he starts to lose touch with everything.
Hell yeah.
93, Contaminant. A man's stepfather is extremely fastidiously clean, and there's nothing weird about that at all. Episode 94, Dead Woman Walking. A woman at a college runs into a bunch of walking cadavers. She escapes the horrors, but she loses her ability to fear.
Can you now sing the title like in The Heathers?
Dead woman walking. Whoa, welcome to my candy shop.
I don't know if that was accurate or not. You're the one who introduced me to The Heathers, so.
I thought your sister was a huge musical nerd. She hasn't played those songs for you? Oh. Those are two different songs, by the way. There's one called Candy Shop, and then there's another one. Wait, yes.
Can we still call her a nerd now that she has a master's degree?
Yeah, that makes her an extra nerd.
Oh,
yeah.
What am I?
You're a mega nerd.
Oh my gosh, I'm a well-crisped nerd.
95, Absent Without Leave. It's a World War II horror story, this time from the point of view of the Italians, an Italian soldier.
Ha, ha, do you get it? They're not there, but they didn't leave. They're absent. Ha, ha.
Episode 96, Return to Sender. The origin story of my boys! Well, the origin story of the company that my boys work for.
Run? Do they run it? There's no...
They run it now, yes.
Yeah, there's no boss now.
There's Breakin and Hope, the two bosses. Episode 97, We All Ignore the Pit. A man moves into a town that is haunted. Everyone is There's a pit in the center of this town that is spooky. Episode 98, Lights Out. I get the darkness ones mixed up, because Lights Out and what was the other one? Tucked In. Oh, I guess Tucked In has more of a bed connotation to it.
But this one's got the Sandman.
Yes, Lights Out is another old tale from the before years, like 1860, I think, and it's a man who runs in with Max Raynor. I thought it was a different Raynor, but it's the same Max Raynor, and then that Max Raynor summons the Sandman. And the Sandman is horrible. Episode 99, Dust to Dust. A man gets caught up in the Dust Bowl, and Dust Bowl is haunted.
Yeah.
Yep. Episode 100, I guess you had to be there. This is the 100th episode special, and it's a bunch of disconnected statements being taken by different members of the Magnus Institute, and it is awful to listen to.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, but first, Joel, what do you think constitutes succinct?
No, you timed
No.
me?
Yeah,
one time I wasn't, trying to speedrun it?
I just want to know, what would you give yourself a grade on? What's an A-level set of succinct
We have
summaries?
20 episodes to cover. Let's say 10 seconds per episode would be 200 seconds, which would be 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So I'd say that's an A. I'd say a B is 4 minutes to 5 minutes. C would be 5 to maybe 7. And then anything past 7, let's say 7.5. Anything past 7.5 is just an F.
Okay. You did those succinct summaries in 5 minutes and 51 seconds.
Okay.
However,
Yeah.
I will give you a 30-second point
reduction
because I talked for some of that. So we'll say you did it in 5:21.
Okay, I don't remember what I said. That's already longer than an A.
That's a C.
It's a C? Okay.
Yeah. So next time, listeners, you can grade Joel at home. Is he succinct?
The one time, I literally thought in my head, I was like, I'm going slower than normal, and it's the one time he decided to pull out that stopwatch. I demand 500 points that I can take to the bank.
Our listeners to this don't get that joke. But I do.
You have to pay attention to the extended lore of the King of the What Now channel. King of the What Now?
King of the What Now?
Those have been your Succinct Summaries. Ooh.
Okay, let's talk about episode 100. Okay? Listen to me. I have the ADHD and the autism and the sensory overload. And it really bothers me to have, like, overlapping, weird talking, and, like, this episode was so painful to listen to that I actually had to stop it and have Joel just read it to me.
I can't deal with awkwardness that's exaggerated, even for humor. I can't watch Arrested Development, because sometimes, like, the way that they interact with each other, like, actually makes me, like,
upset.
Get up and go, no, I can't watch this. And this episode, okay, so we mentioned that John is slowly becoming something that he thinks is not human. And Elias even comments, like, what do you mean by human? You can die, isn't that human? But
what do you mean believe? What do you mean?
No! Jordan Peterson is not of the horrors! Oh god, Jordan McTwisty.
Let's move on.
But it turns out that the archivist has the ability to bring out coherency from the people that are giving their statements, and this episode is explicitly showing us what happens when the archivist is not in the building, and there's no supernatural force that's causing them to give statements coherently. So there is a rambling man who is one of those, like, was it a Tuesday or was it a Wednesday? It was definitely a Wednesday, because the store that I go to is closed on Wednesdays, and that morning the store was closed. He's one of those.
Thank you, Mr. Hippo.
There's a paranoid man who gives his name as John at first, and then Tim's like, John what? And he goes, John Smith, and he believes that the Illuminati / Area 51 has kidnapped his friends. There's one that is a man who is, like, on the verge of hysteria because he's being attacked by spiders, and it's really hard to get a statement out of him because he keeps, like, freaking out about, like, this isn't normal. And the last one is a woman who basically is disinterested. She's like, there was a ghost. And Mara's like, okay, do you want to tell me about the ghost? She's like, it was scary. And that's the whole thing. So it keeps cutting back and forth between these four scenes. And I will say this. In a previous Q&A, Johnny Sims, the writer, has said that the only statements we hear are the quote-unquote real ones. So all four of these stories are real and legitimate and have to do with supernatural forces.
The man who was unlistenable, the one who was very rambly with his story, he solved it because he remembered he had to go to dinner with his mom.
What a
which is
giga
really
Chad.
cute.
Yeah, he ended up in, like, I think it was like a hedge maze or something, or he ended up wandering for hours, and he was like, oh, look at the time, I gotta go back to my mom's dinner. And it was, I can't remember who was interviewing him. I think that might have been Melanie or Basira, but they're just like, wait, so you just left? Yeah, I just left. What do you mean? Of course I did.
Did any of these episodes particularly stand out to you?
We have quite a few on my list. I'm just going to go in order. So you're asking about notable episodes. We're going to talk about scariest episodes in a little bit. But as far as my favorite episodes, I did really like episode 85, The Man Who Isn't There. So as you alluded to, there's a poem about a man who isn't there, and the statement giver basically meets a man who isn't there at the top of the stairs, and he goes to great lengths to explain how he didn't make a sound as he approached, but I could tell by the absence of sound that would have been created as he approached, and eventually he becomes the man who isn't there, and he ends up killing a bunch of other people, and he has moments of clarity where he's like, oh, I remember who I used to be, but for the most part, he's just kind of like, he's nowhere and everywhere. And that's it. And it's very poetically written, the way that he's describing things that aren't there but are there.
It was a beautiful episode. Johnny Sims is a really talented writer.
He does a great deal with tone, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is the episode where John Sims is like, do the things that become the horrors want to be human again? And like, some of them, but you're gonna talk to that lady who's on fire, and I don't think she wants to be a person.
I think it's not only do they want to be human again, but it's also, are all of these monsters, a lot of the monsters that we face, did they used to be human? Like Michael McTwisty, he shows up and he's like, oh, I don't really have a name. I can't really describe myself because I've never been a thing to be described. And by the way, this episode, Whomstead of the Horrors, Michael McTwisty. But it's also the idea that, like, wait, am I a human who's going to slowly become a monster? Are all of these things, once humans? I have a quote here from the statement giver. He didn't like finding... it's the original poem he thought was like a nonsense word, but then it turns out that it's like a real word, and he didn't like that. And he said, by tying it to a real place in a known story, the strange, disconcerting nonsense at the heart of it was lost. Because nonsense is what it is. It is playfully impossible. He cannot be there, but he is. He was. And so am I.
He cannot not be there.
Right, cannot not be there. I need to zoom in on my words a little bit. Oh, no, that's zooming out. Wait. Okay, there we go. But yeah, I know you haven't re-listened to this episode, but do you remember anything else about it?
Oh, I remembered this episode because it was on my favorites list, but I think we've covered the things that matter. I apologize.
Yeah, we don't want to be too brief, but at the same time, all we can really say is beautiful episode, go listen to it.
Any lore relevance that we need to pull out of this episode?
I don't think so. I tried to write down all possible notes, and I don't have anything here.
My favorite episode from this season is A Guest for Mr. Spider. So, when I was browsing the Magnus Archives subreddit, and I know I risk running into spoilers, I was not worried about it at the time. But I was browsing the subreddit, and somebody made an actual physical book of A Guest for Mr. Spider, and each picture in this Reddit post is them turning to a new page, and the background is changing behind them as they read, and eventually they come to a door, and it's the same door that's in the picture. And I didn't notice that at first, but one of the comments was like, oh my gosh, even the background, where are you going? And like, it was so spooky that I was like, this is an incredible piece of fan art and fan fiction. And then to see A Guest for Mr. Spider as an actual episode title, I was like, it's real!
Amazing. Do you want to give a little more details about, like, what the book is?
Yes. It wasn't exciting just because I was there. So, the book, A Guest for Mr. Spider, tells the story of a very hungry spider, and his guests keep bringing him offerings, but they are not satisfactory.
Do you remember what the first one is? The first one is the... No, the first one's the pie, right?
The first one is, he's brought you flowers. Mr. Spider doesn't like flowers. And then the second one is, she's baked you a cake. Mr. Spider doesn't like cake.
No, he doesn't like cake, he doesn't eat flowers was the second one. One of them was like the wrong flavor that he didn't want to eat, and the other one was something that he doesn't eat. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. And then the third one.
And then the third one was, he's brought you his son.
Yep.
Which is just so grim. And through this whole book, like I was saying, you don't see what happens to the person who's visiting Mr. Spider, but there's a closet door and like a blood stain is seeping out from under it. So you can guess what's happening to the person.
Mr. Spider's getting bigger too with each guest who visits.
Now John is reading this book.
Baby John at age 8 or something.
Right. Somebody smacks it out of his hand and he's like, I'm in the park. How did I get here? The person who was bullying him, who picks up the book, then starts walking as he reads it. And John's like, I'm gonna follow him. He's got my goddamn book. And he follows him until he comes to a door. The bully knocks on the door and is pulled in by a spider and eaten.
Yeah.
And John goes, wow, Lightner is the source of all evil in this world.
Yeah, technically, he did not know that the guy was eaten, but, like, that's what the book is clearly implying. And the door that he knocked on is the door in the book. It was from the library of Jürgen Lightner, and this is John kind of reflecting on his past, and you were right. You said, does John have a specific relationship with Lightner? And I thought it was, he just didn't like he didn't like supernatural things, and this is like the one guy who's clearly connected, but no, he had a personal connection.
Yeah, he thought Lightner was the cause of everything. So I really, really liked this episode. I found it extremely unsettling. Poor baby John.
Yes.
That was an adult man who was picking on him. He was 18.
Okay, yeah, I guess technically it was still, in my mind, it's still like a kid, but at the same time, 18 is legally there.
Yeah, compare 18 to 8, you know? Like,
Yes.
developmentally, that's not cool. Also, baby John, the most ADHD, just possible at all. If he didn't have something to entertain himself, he would break out of the house and just go wandering. So his grandma had to buy him books, but the books always had to be new because baby John was also already under the eye. He had the ability to vividly imagine what was happening in a book he read, but only if it was something novel. If he'd read it before, he was not interested.
Well, not only if he hadn't read it before, but it was like if he'd read the style before. So he even says, like, if they had a distinctive enough voice as an author, I could only read them once and I would be bored with all the other things. That's very interesting. He doesn't... Sometimes this show grabs you by the shirt and shakes you and goes, hey, this is of the eye. They didn't do that with him saying that things had to be novel, but I'm seeing the connection now, and I think you're right.
Can you imagine, like, an eyeball and a spider just fighting with each other over John?
Not particularly, no. I don't want to.
Can I tell you something neat about spiders? It'll be fast.
Absolutely.
So I told you that when I went to the Animal Behavior Society conference, somebody presented their research on how jumping spiders can count.
Right.
The way they do this research is they put a little tennis ball, or not a tennis ball, like a soccer ball under the spider.
Like a spider-sized soccer ball.
Yeah, and they glue a magnet to the spider's head so that they keep the head pointed in a direction that their cameras can track. And the way that the spider turns this ball tells you, like, where it's trying to look.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
That is very interesting research.
Anyway, I just imagined, like, the eye as a little ball and the spider on top of it just, like, moving it around with his little spider legs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we have a quote here that John said he had no idea what was inside the book, but he knew that he hated that book. I think this was when he saw the cover but hadn't opened it yet, which is very interesting. Apparently, evil books give off a miasma. And I really want to wonder, did John already fear spiders, and that's why this book called to him because it had his fear in it? Or was this what caused him to dislike spiders? Because we've seen in the modern day, he does not like spiders. He argues with Martin about whether spiders are friends or not.
And whether he should kill them or not. Yeah, I think this book probably was the cause.
Okay.
It seems like a lot of the time Leitners just sort of float around until they end up in someone's hands.
Right, okay.
So, I mean, Leitner even said, right, that's why he couldn't collect them into the library, because they wanted to be out in the world spreading their problems.
Absolutely. I do want to say, too, last episode we tried an experiment, episode 4 of What Now, where I wanted to try to go through one at a time, and sometimes experiments lead to great new results. Sometimes experiments tell you what you shouldn't do, like eating the poison berries. So we are not going to go in order and cover every single episode.
Yeah, can you imagine if we had to, like, go in depth on the Dust Bowl episode?
We're gonna get there. We will get there.
What other episodes did you want to call out?
Oh man, I have so many. Eyewitnesses is another favorite of mine. We're just going through each of the episodes anyways. But Elias saying on the recorder, Daisy's statement never given, is such like a cool... It's like he can see into alternate realities or something, and maybe that is what he can do.
I need to say something. That's an interesting thought. Hold on to that thought. Come here. I am so unbelievably horny for Elias. Johnny Sims says in a Q&A that he doesn't get why people are into Elias. My man, you must be aromantic or something to not understand. He's so confident. He has all of the power and all of the information.
Yeah, technically we're reading ahead, because this is the Season 3 Q&A when Johnny discusses it. I didn't get the impression that he said... I don't think he was saying, why do people think that he's sexy? I think that he was expressing frustration with, like, how obsessed they are with how sexy he is, and, like, how did this happen out of nowhere kind of a thing. But, yeah, this is an interesting episode. You wanted to talk about Elias being able to see into alternate dimensions, was an offhanded comment I made?
No, just hold on to it for later.
Oh, okay, yeah. The other thing, too, is when I was listening to this the first time, I was kind of thinking, like, the actual episode, the story of Daisy isn't that scary, but there's a goddamn man with, like, a long, extending, black forked tongue that whispers into her friend's ear. So let me describe this episode more specifically, more details. Daisy had a friend when she was a kid, like 12 or something like that, and she dared him to go into a building that was, like, full of, like, homeless people and drug addicts, and, like, it was a bad rundown place. And they would dare each other to go in there, and he went in there and she heard, like, a sound, and she went in and there were two people that had killed each other. And her friend was there, and behind this friend was, like, a man who, like, was whispering something in his ear and had, like, a long, forked black tongue, like I just described. And after that moment, her friend was involved in a series of accidents at the school that hurt or killed multiple students, but they never were able to tie it back to him. No one ever knew it was him, but she did. She knew. So when she was a cop and she had a gun, she took him to the place where she takes all of the monsters, and she killed him, and this is her deep dark secret because it was the first non-monster that she killed. I would argue once you're under the influence of a monster that bad, I don't know if you technically count as being a human, but that's the blackmail that Elias uses to make sure that Daisy doesn't turn him in. Which, okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I guess this tells you something about Daisy as a person, because if the justice was what mattered to her, she'd be like, go ahead and turn me in, but what matters to her is the chance to kill monsters. And so, by saying, okay, your blackmail worked, she gets to continue killing monsters.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I also think that, and I mean, the episode might even say this, but I think she specifically doesn't want Basira to know she just shot a guy.
Yeah, she tells John at some point, don't tell Daisy about this clearing. She can't possibly know. But then we find out that she knows anyways. They're in lesbians, Harold. They absolutely are.
They are.
This episode also introduces something that keeps happening throughout this season. The recorder just turns itself on at random points.
Fun.
Yeah. So Daisy comes in and she's like, Martin, I'm going to interview you. Do you want the recorder on or off? Or she tells him to turn off or something, and he goes, I'd prefer it to be on. Interesting. Martin wants the recorder on. He feels more secure with it on. But Tim goes, turn it off, and then it clicks back on, and he goes, what the? And Daisy goes, whatever, and continues interrogating him.
I just had a brain blast.
Yep.
The recorder is an extension of John, and John wants to know what's happening. Because we later find out that he listens to all of these.
Okay. Maybe. Elias, at one point when he's talking to, I can't remember who, maybe it was Melanie or something, they say, was that thing always on? And he goes, oh, you get used to it? So I think it's the archivist, but not John specifically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gertrude probably also. But there's a later episode where Elias says something like, are you listening, John? And he just starts talking like he knows John is going to hear it. And so I do think that, like, it's tied to the archivist wanting to know stuff.
Okay, absolutely.
Because if it was the eye, it would have been doing this from the beginning, the random turning itself back on.
It's because John wasn't properly invested in the first 2 seasons. Now that he's awakened to that level, it happens.
I appreciate you saying awakened with a capital A, but I think you need to work on how you say invested.
Oh, right. Invested. The other thing, too, and I think this is a called shot, no future knowledge here, but Daisy threatens to kill Elias twice in this episode. I really think that maybe she will be the one to do it. I can also see it being Martin because that would be the most surprising, but yeah, I think Daisy might be the one who gets him.
Okay. I think Elias is going to live forever. I don't think he can be killed.
Maybe. Let's find out.
Another episode that I really liked was episode 86, Tucked In. This is the episode about the guy who's super afraid of the dark, but he figures out that if he hides under his blanket, he's fine. Eventually, he starts seeing a monster in the dark. Wait.
So he goes to his friend's house, because his friend's mom is worried, hasn't heard from him. I don't know why the mom didn't go to visit. He finds his body, like, mangled in the closet, and there's signs that basically he hadn't left his room in, like, 2 weeks or something like that.
Oh, I forgot
and
about
after that, our statement giver is haunted, and every night this thing appears, and even though it's darkness on darkness, he can tell it's there. But...
See, this episode was so wicked spooky. But he's like, I could hide under my blanket, and it's gonna be all good.
Because the thing was getting closer, but if he puts the blanket on, it stops coming closer. Sorry.
Right. So this goes on for a while, and then, eventually, the thing gets him, and is like, the blanket never did anything. Which is just, that line, like, chilled me to hear.
It's fascinating, and it gives the monster, not only can it talk, but it gives the monster a sense of cunning. Like, oh... this human thought that they could hide from me. I'm going to play along for a couple of days because that will make it even more terrifying when I eat him.
I was not afraid of the dark exactly as a child, but I was afraid of getting murdered.
Okay.
And my go-to when I thought that there might be murderers lurking in the house is I would take my dogs and I would go lock myself in a room. And at some point, I think it was when I was an adult, because I still do this, but at some point I went, if you lock yourself in a room, and there are murderers, haven't you now trapped yourself without a route of egress? And then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't just run around the house. What if the murderers are faster?
You hold a sword and you just keep spinning in a circle, and then they'll never be able to get closer to you. So.
That's a really smart idea, but then what about my dog?
The dog's short enough, will be under the blade.
At one point, I had 2 dogs, and because I was, like, a child, they were much bigger than me, and so I would just, like, sit in between them, and I'd be like, the dogs will tell me if murderers are here.
Absolutely.
They were golden retrievers. They wouldn't have done shit.
They would have wagged their tails, brought them a ball, maybe.
Licked them to death, yeah.
Okay. In our first couple of episodes, I was really obsessed with this 2 a.m. thing, and I feel like Johnny Sims really liked putting in the 2 a.m. thing in the first season or so, but then I think he was told to back off on it, because I only found 2 instances of 2 a.m. this season, this half of the season, but in this one, the night when he was woken up by the monster was at 2:40 a.m., so that's a very specific time, and it's 2, so...
Yeah.
All right. I told you we would get back to this episode. This season, this half of the season was really front loaded with episodes that I was excited to talk about.
It's interesting because I feel like most of the plot was the back half of the season, but yeah, the front half of the season had really good episodes.
You know what's funny?
Tell me.
You asked about the most interesting episodes, and we have a list here. I have 3 categories. I have scariest/creepiest, I have favorites, and I have meh. And when you said most interesting episodes, I started reading off that favorites episode list. But then, when we were going back and forth, I switched back to scariest and creepiest. So I guess we're just it's a mismatch, right?
Yeah.
Another episode that was one of my favorites wasn't necessarily scary. Episode 92, Nothing Beside Remains. This is one of those old-timey letters to John Magnus. Was that his name? Mm-hmm. Jonah Magnus.
Jonah Magnus. Of the Magnus Institute.
Well, I knew his last name was Magnus, but there's so many J names.
He must have had IBS.
What?
Toot all the farting.
Okay, yeah.
Look, Johnny Sims isn't the only one who can make puns, Joel. Yeah, but Johnny Sims puns are good. Do you think Johnny names the episodes, or do you think the other one?
Martin's real life person.
I want to call him Martin, like they should both have the names of the characters they play, but... I need to be very clear about something. My ADHD meds wear off right around 7 o'clock, so we chose to record. Now,
this episode is not necessarily my favorite because of the contents. The actual... I call it the actual episode, but the supernatural stuff is such a small part of this episode. Basically, someone runs into one of the Lucases, I assume the first Lucas, and basically says, like, oh, I fell behind on owing you money, take it to the courts, because they're gonna find in my favor. So basically he was being kind of a dick to, it wasn't Ezekiel, it's
in the spreadsheet.
Mordecai Lucas.
What an old-timey man name.
Right? Like, that's someone who has made a deal with the devils. There's Mordecai, there's Alistair, there's Lestikai. That's a fake name. You just made that up.
Well, Mordecai.
Oh, but... he upsets the Lucas, and as we know, the Lucas family is all about the lonely dimension and being by yourself. And this man slowly starts to lose connection to other people. Like, he will go on trips with other people, and he will feel like he's separate from all of them. And there's, like, stuff happening in his house that, like, he can't prove is there, but he sees, like, windows have been broken overnight and stuff. And he basically goes, Jonah, please help me. Please help me. And Elias is recording this episode.
Yes, an important note is that he had to write Jonah a letter because at this point nobody hears him if he talks to them.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Right. So this episode...
He disappears from reality, but he is still in reality, essentially.
Right. So Elias is recording this episode. And after he finishes reading this letter, he says into the recorder... Did I actually write down the quote? No. He basically says, Jonah didn't help that man, because that is not what we do at the Magnus Institute. We don't help. We don't have friends. Those people you think are your assistants, your friends, they're gonna die. You're here to just watch everything. That's all you gotta do. Just watch and let it happen. Jesus Christ, Elias. Jesus Christ.
This episode inspired a fanfiction plot, which I will not share on mic for fear of upsetting my husband.
Excellent. Now, the other thing, that's the A plot of the episode, I guess, the actual recording. But the B plot is way more interesting. At this point, Basira has found John, because we're covering these episodes kind of out of order. She's found John, thinks that he killed Jurgen, thinks that he's a monster, is going to kill him.
Basira or Daisy? Mixing up
Daisy.
names.
Daisy's the really unhinged one.
Daisy is the ACAB, and Basira is the all?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
And she answers that with a yes all. That's why she quit.
Absolutely. But, so Basira, Daisy, god damn it. Daisy has tracked down John and is like, I'm going to kill you, you son of a bitch. And he goes, it wasn't me. It was Elias. And at this point, John has figured out that he does have this compulsion power. He can ask someone a question and they will answer it. Daisy has figured out that he has this power and is beating the shit out of him every time he tries to ask a question. Yeah, shoots him in the leg to show that she means business. But then Basira comes up with the plan, why don't we just ask Elias? If John can make anyone answer a question, ask Elias if he killed Gertrude. So this is the episode where the team's gonna burst in and they're gonna save the day. And at the very beginning of the episode, before the statement begins, Elias calls the police and says, hey, Detective Daisy Tonner, whatever her full name is, she's going to be here in 15 minutes. She's going to do violence against me. Please send the police. So Elias has the ability to see things, and I am curious, what's your take on this? Was he able to sense where she was? She was on, Water Street and 4th Street, and he knew that it was 15 minutes until, given traffic before she'd arrive. Or does he have future sight and he knows she will arrive at 4:16?
I think he has knowledge. I think if he thinks of a question, he has the answer.
He's got that from Zatch Bell, obviously.
Obviously.
Right.
We're gonna watch that someday.
Yeah.
But that's what I think is going on, is he went, I wonder where Daisy is, and the answer, she's gonna be here in 10 minutes, just popped into his head.
So he didn't necessarily know where she was coming from, he just knew when she was going to arrive. I don't even think he asked the question, where's Daisy? I think he just has a protective bubble. Once someone goes, I'm going to hurt him, he can spidey sense it. That's my interpretation of it.
From future knowledge of other episodes, I think you're correct.
Okay. When John does try to compel him, John's like, hey, tell me the answer. Elias kind of shivers. He goes, oh, that's kind of tingly. Gertrude never tried to compel me, not directly. But, yeah, that's kind of interesting, John. By the way, your powers don't work on me. Sucks to suck. And then
Fanfiction goblins do be fanfictioning, though.
And he promises he's going to answer this question, but he says, it's very important to me that you understand that no action I have taken has been controlled. I have done everything because I wish to. He iterates a couple of times in this episode, nothing is making him do this stuff, and it's personally important. He wants John to know that he's choosing to do all of this. For some reason. Who knows? I think choice is important. I think there's a difference between you read a book and it scared you so bad that now you're serving the entity, and you read the book and you got so horny that you want to serve the entity.
Yeah, I think maybe it's easier to eat you if you're just, like, stumbling through stuff, but Elias is serving it on purpose.
Well, yeah, I think it's exactly that. I think it's easier for the entity to work with someone that wants to feed it rather than someone that's constantly running and fighting.
And maybe that'll be important for John. Like, you have to lean into it, John.
Yeah. Well, and Gertrude didn't lean into it. That's why I think she is at a crossroads, whereas John he's of the horrors, and Gertrude was just familiar with the horrors. Let me see, what else do we have on here? Elias confirms that he killed Gertrude and Leitner. Leitner was going to tell John too much too early. This episode is lore.
You can tell Johnny Sims is a big nerd because knowledge is literally power.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like you have to obtain it yourself.
Yes! Okay, here's something else. Elias tells John, if someone just told you the answers, you wouldn't gain as much power from it. But you know what he did? He read a statement for John to tell John something. So which is it, Elias? Are you not allowed to tell John stuff, or you are allowed? I think he's only allowed to tell him a little bit. He's drip feeding it. So he can say, here's what Mordecai Lucas did to this man who no longer exists, but he can't say the unknowing is going to happen on April 4th.
Well, and he can also be spiteful, right? So maybe, like, later, if he says something directly to John, it's to take away some of John's power. I don't think Elias would. That's not the vibe I get from him, but, you know.
Okay. Goodness, there are so many more quotes from this episode. So, Daisy shows up and she's going to shoot Elias. And Elias says, listen, I have the files on you, and if you shoot me or arrest me, I will release those files. And Daisy's like, fine, I don't care, so long as I shoot you, that'll be fine. And then Elias makes Basira sign a contract that says she now works for the Magnus Institute.
And Basira is very like, yeah, okay, this might as well happen about it. Like, she doesn't seem to be okay.
Yeah. I think also it's just, like, the situation is tense. Like, she doesn't want Daisy to go to jail, and she's told by Elias that will stop that from happening. But basically, Basira is now tied to the Institute. Everyone is tied to the Institute. Daisy, too? I think Daisy's the exception. I think everyone else is directly tied. But if he dies, or the Institute is destroyed, everyone tied to it will die gruesome deaths.
We had a very humorous back and forth about this off mic, where I was like, if he dies or is removed in any way, and you went, no, only if he dies. Or if the Institute is destroyed.
Right, yeah, if it's physical harm, you can put Elias in a box and ship that box to Argentina, and it will have no effect.
You'll turn him into a flea. A tiny little flea.
Yes. Oh, actually, I have a quote. I was describing it, but I can say, Basira is now tied to the Institute. All of you are, like fingers on a hand, and I am the beating heart of it. Should I, or the Institute, be destroyed, you will all, unfortunately, follow suit.
So, my theory from last episode, or the episode before, I don't remember, that they're going to beat Elias by replacing him with John. Could be. The Dutchman must have a captain.
If you have the ability, if you transfer the power, it will not kill anyone, but if you just kill the person who has the power, it will kill everyone. John gets very angry with Elias because of all the things that's happening. This is the episode I think I mentioned where John says, am I human? And Elias is like, what even is human, buddy? But John says that he never chose this. And I love this quote even outside of the Magnus Institute, even outside of symbolism and lore.
Try to give it the proper gravitas.
I think I did Elias justice earlier.
Yeah, I'm ready.
You never wanted this, no. But I'm afraid you absolutely did choose it. In 100 ways at 100 thresholds, you pressed on. You sought knowledge relentlessly, and you always chose to see. Our world is made of choices, John, and very rarely do we truly know what any of them mean, but we make them nonetheless.
Ooh.
He assures John that John is not going to become like the weird eye monster underneath the in the Library of Alexandria, covered in one of our earlier episodes. So I'm guessing that that's a transmutation gone wrong. Like, if you choose to serve the eye, but then you change your mind partway through, you become a horrible eye monster.
Maybe that guy wasn't serving the eye. Maybe the eye was eating him, like we talked about a few minutes ago.
Okay. And then the last one that we have is Elias explaining how the Watcher works. We thrive on ceaseless watching, on knowing too much. What we face is the hidden, the uncanny, and the unknown. If you are going to stop them, you need to get better at seeing, and my explaining things is simply not enough. So the Eye and the Stranger, not friends. They do not get along. They're antithetical to each other, is the exact word that Elias used. I think that the Eye and the Spiders are simpatico. I think that they're close to each other.
Yeah, I mean, what's more seeing stuff than a web where you can feel everything that's going on?
Yeah, they're basically both about connections and connections and all that good stuff. Yes. We 100% completely confirm that this season is about the unknowing. That is the threat that the team is working to stop. Elias seems to know how to stop it, but again, can't tell John because that would be spoilers. That would ruin the whole thing.
Gosh, I love Elias so much.
Now we are done with this episode, with, what is it? Nothing Beside Remains. I think that this is one of the episodes whose titles don't stick in my head. I can listen to Contaminant, and I can think about it for a minute, and I go, well, it must be a rot episode. But Nothing Beside Remains, I'm like, I guess that's a loneliness episode, but the main meat of the episode is not loneliness, it's Elias explaining the lore.
Right.
We're going to get quite a few of those moving forward. There's one in particular that I actually think is one of the weaker episodes of the series in the second half of Season 3, but I'm still happy to know the lore. It's important.
Absolutely. Now, Joel, I have sad news for you.
Yes.
It is our bedtime, so we are going to have to put recording on pause, but we will come back, and when we come back, we will cover the rest of the episodes that we thought stood out from this half of the season.
And our notes, and the memes, and the connections.
We will cover so much more.
We can discuss what the definition of okay is.
We sure can, boss. Next time.
The daggers that she's staring into me right now, guys. All right, everyone, have a good day, even though I'm probably going to stitch these two together into one episode.
It'll be funny if you do like a rooster and you're like, good morning, everyone, I've returned.
Joel, put in, the generic good morning, the sound of, like, the birds chirping here. I know you just heard us discussing putting that in, but another reminder to put it in here, and a reminder to Kat how this part of the episode is going to start. Good morning!
Good morning! We have returned to finish recording, and Joel, we only went for, 20 minutes yesterday?
We went for, an hour.
I'm sorry?
We went for an hour and we discussed about 6 episodes. Six in an hour. What is wrong with us? We did do a discussion question, we did do Succinct Summaries, and we did kind of talk about the overall vibes of the season, but yes, I think we might be making a bit of a concerted effort to try to be a little bit more brief, which we're very good at.
I appreciate everyone who's bearing with us in our ridiculously long episodes.
Absolutely. We were in the middle of favorite episodes or standout episodes. I talked a little bit about my scariest episodes, but we're trying to focus on the ones that we just liked for reason A, B, or C. And you only have one more on your list that we have not talked about.
Yes, episode 87, The Uncanny Valley. In my notes on our document, I put in parentheses, haha, the episode title is a pun, you see. And I know they all are, but I like this one especially because, mannequins are Uncanny Valley, and the valley itself is an uncanny place.
Well, and for anatomy class, one of my favorite episodes, it is a class, it is an anatomy class being taught, but it's not just teaching humans what their anatomy is like, it's teaching weird aliens, basically, what they should pretend to be. But that pun isn't as strong as Uncanny Valley.
Yeah.
So,
this is just a really, really solid one.
Describe the general plot.
Yeah, 10,000-foot view. A guy goes to a house to solve a plumbing problem, is too far on the spectrum to notice the horrors, leaves. The horrors are like, what the heck? Why didn't he notice us? Call him back.
During the day where there's more visible, Yes,
then they grab him by the face and point him at the horrors, and they're like, horrors! And he goes, oh no, horrors! And he leaves, and the valley burns down.
Whomstead of the Horrors, the stranger is the thing that called him out to the house, the thing that he didn't recognize because he was on the spectrum and was like, people are weird sometimes, I don't notice things. But when he shows up the next day, there's a second woman who is very different, and she's associated with the fire. Like, she says something where you're like, oh, this woman. And as he's leaving, she burns him, to, like, just let us, the viewers, know that absolutely.
Yeah, and because it will come up later, her name is Jude Perry.
Yes.
She is one of the avatars of the fire.
Yes. I'm gonna keep calling it the Desolation. I'm almost positive that she explicitly names it in her episode, but if not, we will find out it's called the Desolation next 20 episodes anyways.
I keep wanting to call it the Consumption, like I'm some old-timey Victorian person.
Absolutely. If they had the 7 deadly sins, that's what Johnny Sims would call greed, is the consumption.
Yeah, also really quick, just for all y'all out there, I'm still sick, so if my voice goes or if my brain wanders, I apologize.
If you listened to the first half of this episode, I hope you're listening to this episode sequentially, but I made a joke about we're not sick and we're not up too late, but, like, I was trying to be sarcastic, but listening back, my voice didn't sound sarcastic. I was being sarcastic. I'm feeling much better, because I had a long night's sleep, hence the good morning.
I'm so glad for you.
Now, I also wrote down this episode as one that I want to talk about. I put it under scariest episodes. In general, I mean, it's very creepy that they have, like, humans being, like, skinned alive, and they're clearly still alive, and that is very creepy. But sometimes art is personal. This very small detail that made me go, oh, this episode horrifies or saddens me, is when this autistic man shows up the next day and Jude Perry is making fun of him. The way Gertrude Robinson, this is a Gertrude Robinson episode where she's narrating, the way that her voice actor is like, I felt very bad about the way that she laughed at me. Like, that was the thing that made me be like, my heart.
Yeah, I really loved the character of this statement.
Of Sebastian? Yeah.
I felt so bad for him. And, like, some people, I know they've made a point in this show before about how it's not any sort of trespass, right? Sometimes you just get unlucky and the lion decides to pull you out of the herd.
Sometimes it's trespass, but not every episode. Yeah.
Right. And, like, he was just trying to do a good job. And he was so nice. And he was like, people have their things and they're weird and that's okay. And
yeah,
he pulled, like, a clump of hair and blood out of the drain. And he was like, well, sometimes stuff gets in drains.
Well, because it was a chemical plant, right? So he's like, there's plenty of chemicals that could turn that color. It didn't occur to me that could be blood. But anything else about this episode?
No, I mean, plot-wise, I think the big thing is this is the first real look, it's the stranger, right? Like, we've had other stranger episodes, especially in this season, but, like, this one, I feel like really emphasized, like, what the stranger is about. Like, we're gonna take your skin and we're gonna show you spooky things and make you unsettled.
Yes, and the reason why Jude Perry is mentioned by name here, there's a couple of different things going on. One, this is a tape given to John, and he listens to it, and Gertrude explicitly mentions a person by name, because he doesn't know how to investigate this stuff, but now he knows if I can find Jude Perry, she might have answers for me. And I think that's the next John episode, is him talking to her. The second thing, Gertrude has a sense of humor. I don't think she emphasizes it much in her other episodes, but she says something about how the Desolation people, cult of the lightless flying people, might be hanging out with a stranger because, okay, the unknowing is what's called a ritual, capital R, and the Desolation had its own ritual, capital R, and Gertrude stopped it, and she says the Desolation might be trying to hang out with these guys because their own ritual went up in flames. So she burned down the Desolation ritual, and they're mad at her. That's why there was that fire shrine in season 1 or whenever that was.
Destroy this old woman.
It also speaks to the fact that the horrors can team up with each other. We've been talking about the Eye and the Spider might be aligned. The Eye and the Stranger are opposites. Apparently Desolation is fine with the Stranger. Sure. Why not?
Why not? I mean, fire doesn't stop a stranger from entering your home and taking your skin.
Okay.
Let me wear your skin, John. Now, you've got one left on your favorite list as well.
Yes. And when I was doing the Succinct Summaries, you could tell that I was going to talk about this one. Episode 96, Return to Sender. Brecon and Hope, the delivery company, and the boys, Brecon and Hope, have been throughout these series. It is a background lurking thing, and I think they might be the most name-dropped of all of the horrors and all of the entities that we've interacted with. And this is the earliest in the timeline we're going to get after they left the circus. There is a man who owns a company called Brecon and Hope. His name is Brecon. There is no Hope, but he always wanted sons, or he basically
He thought it was going to be Brecon and Sons, and when he never had sons, he called it Hope to represent his hope for children.
Yes, and people mistook that for his wife, and he'd sometimes like go into the back and pretend to have a conversation with quote-unquote Hope. He's working here, he's doing a delivery company, it's doing pretty well, and then these two dudes just come in, and they're like, we're going to work here, give us a van. He's like, what? And he's so unsettled that he kind of goes along with it, and there's a quote, I wish I'd written it down. First, they were delivering the right thing to the right places. Then they started delivering the right thing to the wrong places. And then, and I think he might like shudder or something, the wrong things to the wrong places. Mm-hmm. Other delivery people were disappearing so that Brecon and Hope would be the sole delivery people. One day, he finds a box that says return to sender that was sent to him. And I believe that the label, like the address, was in his handwriting. And he gives this statement to the Magnus Institute, and the Magnus Institute, and he goes, I know that this box is my death. I know that I'm not going to make it. This is like my final statement sort of a thing. And then John makes a comment about, the statement notes, say something about like, despite the fact that, he was worried that he was going to open the box. There are a bunch of teeth marks of something that clawed its way out. So that's very Stranger. I like the idea that with the Stranger horrors, you don't always know what it is. It's just like, we found teeth marks and the guy is gone. What could that mean?
What could have happened? I really liked this episode. I liked that Brecon and Hope showed up and they were like obviously not people.
Right.
And then as they talked to this man, they took his voice.
Yes!
And that's what unsettled him enough to be like, okay, you're me now, I guess.
It's like my favorite episode of Doctor Who, with that thing that is learning how to talk like people, and it slowly gets better throughout the episode.
Oh, is that the My Arm Is Too Long
No,
episode?
it's the cruise ship episode with David. Not cruise ship. It's a Donna's episode with no doctor in it. Or no, it's the doctor episode with no Donna in it, and he's on like this like 8-person tour, and there's like a really smart doctor, and there's his assistant, and then there's like an emo kid. It had a Jared in it, that episode. Anyways.
That's really interesting, though, that they had an episode like that, and then the Tennant Donna episode I referred to was also a creature
kind
learning
of like
to be a person.
Thing. Yes, absolutely. Anything else to say?
Isn't this the episode where John went, aha, I know one of the Stranger's bases, and like he investigated this warehouse?
Yes, so John's story throughout this season, he's trying to figure out how to stop the unknowing. He's trying to figure out how to stop the unknowing. And he's been getting these statements from Elias, and some of them seem random. We'll talk about that, but a lot of them naturally, logically lead to each other. Uncanny Valley, he learns the name Jude Perry. He goes to talk to Jude Perry. Jude Perry tells him how to find Michael Crew. He talks to Michael Crew. I can't remember if that leads to a dead end or not, but then this one leads to him going to that warehouse the next episode, and stuff happens at that warehouse eventually later this season, but we can't talk about it because we're only talking about episodes 81 through 100.
Yep, we've limited our maximum power.
Yes. So those were all of the episodes we marked down as favorites. Let's quickly go back to my list. I've already talked about a few of the scary ones, but let's talk about the episodes we found scariest, creepiest, most unsettling. Again, I'm just going to go in order. 83, drawing a blank. There's a woman who works as at a department store, and she like poses the mannequins or whatever. She's also a bit of an artist, so sometimes she stays late with her boss's permission and just sketches the mannequins because she's learning like anatomy and posing and stuff. And then one day, one of the mannequins is replaced, and it's so subtle that no one believes her, but because she draws them every night or regularly, she notices it's different, and it's a circus ringmaster. How interesting. That's not going to come up again.
And it seems malicious to her.
Yeah, I think it's like in the middle of like whipping one of the other mannequins when she originally sees it. And then there is concerns that there was like vandalism or something, like she moved one of the mannequins.
Somebody is moving the mannequins in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Right, and they think that it's her because she stays behind or whatever. At the very end of the episode, it's also revealed that she has dwarfism, and I didn't think that that was really relevant to the episode, but it might add a little bit to like why they picked on her, why they singled her out.
She says at the beginning of the episode that people are reluctant to let her close due to her condition, but she doesn't say what that condition is until later.
Okay. Anyways, so she's not allowed to stay late at night anymore. Other people start doing the closing up and the posing of the mannequins, and they get more and more weirded out by this weird mannequin, but they don't really know how to phrase it. And so eventually one night she goes to like the other employees aren't available, so she goes back to do the late night shift, and then her like manager disappears, like stops talking even though she's constantly talking, and our speaker is like, what the heck, and goes and finds something creepy. I can't remember what, but it's basically the ringleader mannequin attacking the manager, and our person gets so scared she can't do anything, but she'd already started calling, I think it's 999 in England. So the police show up and she escapes with her life, but I think that the manager is dead.
And the police are like, obviously you couldn't possibly have murdered this person because you are so small.
And you called us, and the way that she died is unrelated, but also this is incredibly weird.
It can't be a mannequin, so you must have seen the real killer and just, like, your mind played tricks on you.
Yes. We talk about how the Spiral is the gaslight horror, and so is the Stranger. Both of them together are the gaslight horror. I think this episode is the most effective gaslighting episode to me. Just the fact that the mannequin is just a little different and she's the only one who notices, which is what the Stranger does in other episodes, but I don't know, it's just really good in this episode.
Yeah, this episode was very effective. The Stranger is a compelling horror for me. I'm always unsettled by strangers.
Right.
Like, I always have that stranger means you harm feeling, even when it's, like, middle of the day, like, neutral.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm very susceptible to this as, like, oh, no, there's something spooky in there. And, like, as a kid, I was super spooked by dolls and clowns and mannequins and...
Yeah, no, Johnny Sims in the Q&A says that he, like, researched, like, basic or common fears, and so I think he really captured it. I'm not a horror aficionado, but I think I prefer things like being gaslit or not being sure what's going on, or just this, like, sense of unease. I prefer that over, like, there's a man with a knife killing people, and I think I prefer it over... Oh, no, I had another example.
Bugs?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say ghosts. I guess I would prefer something like what's going on to, like, there just being, like, a ghost that's throwing chairs across the room.
I think that's why Get Out was such effective horror, because for a good chunk of the movie, it was hard to tell whether the main character was just being paranoid or if something was really going on.
Right, yeah.
And that makes you, the viewer, feel unsettled. And that's why I like Uncanny Narrator so much. Uncanny narrator. Unreliable narrator.
I see.
So much as a device.
And then, you know, I think that people will agree that it's the weakest one. I don't know why, because I really didn't like Up, or no. What was it called?
Us?
No. I like Us. What was the third one called with the weird kite balloon monster?
Oh! Yes, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what it was called.
I personally do not like the third one as much as I like the second movie from Jordan Peele, but I think the creatures from Us were also Uncanny Valley, because they, like, laughed too big, or, like, too loud and stuff.
I didn't understand the plot of the second one. I had to Google it. Like, I watched the movie.
Second one or the third one?
The third one.
The one with
sorry.
the kite monster.
The one with the kite monster. I Googled it, and I still was like, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, maybe if we rewatched it. Anyways, this is not a Jordan Peele podcast.
But it could be. But it should be. Really quickly, I want to tell you my own stranger horror moment. I think you'll laugh at me, because you're going to go, this does sound like you. So I've told you before that I had these dolls as a kid that I hated.
You didn't want to give away
because they were mine. I don't think I mentioned every night at bedtime I would turn them all so they were facing the wall, and then I'd turn them back out in the morning so my dad wouldn't be like, you're scared of these dolls, we have to give them away.
If you turned them away from you and you woke up one morning and they were all looking at you and you weren't sure if you remembered, maybe you forgot.
I'm shocked that that's a prank my parents never played on me, because I love my parents. That's the kind of thing they would do, and they would think it was so funny.
Right. And then years later they'd deny it. They'd be like, no, that never happened. What do you mean?
Yeah, I throw up really easily, and a couple months ago, my parents called me and they, like, played the sound of somebody throwing up on the other end, and I was just confused. I was like, why are you doing this? And they were cracking up, and they were like, did that make you throw up? No. They were drunk. They were, like, having a party. Speaking
of discussing things that make me go, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone need to talk about this? Episode 84, Possessive. Now, there's an interesting phenomenon with the Magnus Archives. When I'm listening to an episode the first time, sometimes I get the horror from an academic level, but I don't feel weirded out or gross or whatever feeling that's trying to be evoked. But then if I re-listen before we record, I will be more affected by it. So Possessive, the first time I listened to it, I don't think I particularly liked it. I was like, oh, this is kind of gross. Same with the sick hospital, elderly people home one.
I hate that episode.
Right.
I mean, I hate it because it's so effective.
Right. But like, when I listened to it the first time, I was like, oh, this isn't quite so bad as Kat made it sound. But then the next time I listened to it, I was like, oh, I really don't like this. Possessive was that too. I hated it the second time. I'm not going to talk about it. It's just gross. It's a bug episode where the bugs are earthworms. And I do find it fascinating that the curse can be passed on. I found that to be a really effective final line.
If you hear Baby Dog in the background, he is standing on the chair behind me looking longingly out the window.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what he wants.
He wants waffle fries. Okay.
I want to touch on this episode really quick.
Yeah.
I was scared of old people as a child.
Sure.
And part of it was that, like, I felt like I could see them decaying, and if I got close to them, I could feel myself decaying.
Okay, maybe the end would get you.
Yeah. And that's the vibe I got from this episode. It was very uncomfortable to listen to.
Absolutely.
I'm not scared of old people anymore. You can't get me by sending a picture of an old person, so don't try that.
What if it was an old person but creepy music was playing? That is a deep cut. If you listen to the Weekly Planet podcast and you hear them talk about a specific executive, I can't remember which one it is. Does not matter. The other thing that I found effective about this episode is, so the main character, the speaker, goes with his friend every day. This friend is delivering food to this old woman who doesn't leave her house. And eventually when he decides to save his friend, because his friend didn't come home last night from the garbage dump woman's house, he shows up and all of the food that his friend has been delivering is just out front, or out back, uneaten. And like, that was also effective, like, but then why has he been going over every day? Anyways, we'll be moving on. I do not like this episode. Yuck, 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 yuck.
We already talked about Uncanny Valley, but you have it on your creepiest list. Is it just that you felt bad for Sebastian?
Yeah, no, Uncanny Valley, I felt bad for Sebastian, parentheses, statement giver. So.
Yeah. I want to ask you a quick question.
Okay.
There's like this vulture culture thing online, like people collecting fox skulls or whatever.
Sure. Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? Cool things you find in nature. Somebody recently gave me the impression that that's as weird as if they walked into my barn and I had a bunch of skinned people. Do you think those things are equivalently creepy?
No, it's the same as, like, eating a cow is not the same as eating a person. For most people, I understand that there's specific episodes in this horror podcast that kind of address that. I personally think that most people see a difference between, like, a human and an animal, because humans have, like, a quote-unquote soul, and they have, like, a level of intelligence that most animals don't have. So I think skinning people would be especially creepy, and I think bones aren't as bad.
Yeah.
So, personally, I don't see them.
My dad thinks it's creepy too, and I was like, it's memento mori. The Victorians believed that if you kept reminders of death around, it was like a protective thing. And my dad goes, how'd that work out for them? Are they still alive? Or did death get them?
Oh, okay. So superstition has no place in the household of your family. Very interesting. I'll be sure to remember this for the next Thanksgiving. Moving on. Episode 89, Twice as Bright. We mentioned Jude Perry. This is Jude Perry's episode. Very effectively unhinged person.
Yeah, give me a reminder of what this episode was.
John goes to Jude Perry. This is the episode where he starts to realize that he can ask questions and people will answer. He'll say things like, hey, what happened here? And she goes, ask me one more question, Archivist, and you will find out the dangers of it. It's a woman who tells the story of how she got recruited into the cult of the Lightless Flames. She loved hurting people and damaging things. And she met a group of people that were like, hey, do you want to hurt things? And she's like, I love hurting things. Let me do some murders. I want to find people who have, like, hope in their life, like this coworker who recently had a child, gonna kill the dad. Also, I've been watching the son, just in case he ever gets happy, I'll take that away from him too. And you're like, wow, that's psycho.
Yeah, Jude Perry sure is something, isn't she?
Yeah, well, and Agnes had a level of, like, playfulness to her, but the other members do not. Apparently, they're all just like, I love killing people.
It really makes me wonder how Agnes ended up involved, because she was a child.
Yeah, when she first joined or whatever. when Jude Perry had a partner, she was lesbian's Herald, and she mentioned...
What a strange way to say that.
hang
I
on.
love you. No, it's fine. Leave it in.
Okay. But she mentioned, the statement giver, Jude Perry, says something about, she could tell that my mind was elsewhere. It was on Agnes. So, like, it wasn't just I worship her. It wasn't just like she's a really cool lady with fire powers. There was a romantic or sexual element to it. I don't know if that's true for the other members. We find out why it's called the Cult of the Lightless Flame, because fire that gives light is good. It's Prometheus bringing fire to you. But if it doesn't have any of the warmth or the light, it's just destruction. That's what the desolation is.
That's so cool.
It's cool, and I hate this horror. I do not want to see what The Happening would look like.
Yeah, I mean, top two fears when I was, or not fears, but like top two ways I didn't want to die as a child. Number one being burned alive. Number two being boiled to death.
Those are very similar, yeah.
Yeah, and being boiled would actually be worse, I've discovered as an adult, because when you're burned at the stake, the smoke inhalation actually kills you pretty quickly before the fire, like, really starts to hurt.
Interesting.
Same thing if you die in a house fire. The smoke is usually what is the thing that kills people.
I see.
But there is no smoke when you're being boiled alive. There's just drowning and hot.
Absolutely. I haven't been looking at my details or quotes for the episodes we've been discussing, but I've pulled up that document. And for 89, I did mention that this is the first episode where he can compel people. She said something about, like, if you ask one more question, I'll burn your face off. But she also, when she decided she was going to give a statement, she looks at John, she says, "Aren't you going to say your words?" The statement begins, or statement of Jude Perry. And that's very fascinating, because we've seen other instances enjoy the sky blue, that thing that he said in the submarine or whatever.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection. You're so right.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the activation phrase.
Well, and I don't even think it's the activation phrase. I think it's, hey, check me out. I've got something interesting to tell you. You know, because the eye can't look at everything all at once all the time.
Or can it? The Watcher is ceaseless.
We do find out that the servants cannot focus on a bunch of stuff, so maybe it's, hey, fellow archivist, pay attention to the statement.
Anything else you have to say about the Cult of the Lightless Flame, or Jude Perry, or John's budding archival skills? I love that John is an idiot. I love that he's like, I'm just gonna go to this person, and they're just gonna have a conversation with me. He gets burned. She burns him.
John has a problem. He likens the statements to drugs without prompting. Another through line in these episodes is, at first he's singing with Georgie, and she's like, I don't really care what's going on, you can tell me when you're ready. But then eventually statements start arriving at her house, and she doesn't know who's sending it. John does, but he doesn't tell her.
And she thinks he's fallen in with, like, a cult or something. He's being very shifty about what's happening.
And at one point she's like, you need to stop recording. He's like, I need to record. It's not like a drug addiction. You know who says that it's not like a drug addiction? People who are addicted to something.
Yeah, it's not that I need my daily iced coffee. It's just that I find myself in the Starbucks line whether I want to be there
and I
or
can't
not.
really focus without it, you know? Same, Diet Coke is just like this, it's this process that gets your brain started. I've been saying, I think that we know it's called the Desolation, and would you look at this? I'm looking at my details or quotes, and in the Gertrude episode, Uncanny Valley, we specifically get the Desolation named. Gertrude is our portal into finding out the names of these things, because she gave us the Stranger, she gave us the End, she gave us the Desolation.
Your little hand gesture there, I just want to ride Gertrude like a skateboard.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, I'm standing on her back, and she's flying, and I'm seeing all
Devil
of the
May
names
Cry
of the
3,
horrors.
you want to knock the enemy to the ground and then ride the body around.
This is not a Devil May Cry 3 episode.
It could be.
It should be. That's going to be a new call and response.
Apparently it's been nice. It could be, it should be, has been added to the
Call and response section of your handbook.
All right. Last episode that I put as especially creepy. And this one is, again, a very specific personal reason why I don't like this episode. Bodybuilder. Jared Hopsworth has a gym. There's a man who's like, I love being a big, bulky boy. I love my muscles. I want to get bigger muscles. I'm going to start taking steroids. Nothing wrong with steroids. You just got to get your perfect body. I need to find a gym that would let me take the steroids. I don't want people to judge me for taking them. I want people to be like, hell yeah, you're taking steroids. So he finds a gym that is basically never occupied by other people. He and one other woman are the only two that go there. And this woman has body dysmorphia bad. She like looks at herself in the mirror and is constantly like, I need this to be different. I need that to be different. So This episode, there's also these giant lockers that are like taller than a person should be and wider than a person should be, and there's only like so many of them, and our main character is like, what happens when they all get full? And Jared's just like, I don't know, then we don't have any more customers, I guess. The thing about this episode that scared me or made me go, give me the heebie-jeebies, that's how you describe that. It's so funny. I am a diabetic. Every 3 days, I have to put a needle in my body in order to connect the insulin pump to me. I don't like needles. I hate getting my blood drawn, and the way that he was talking about steroids, I imagined having needles put into my muscles, and that's the thing that most unsettled me from this episode. But the real horror is at the end of the episode, he goes after hours. Apparently it's open 24/7. He forgot his phone, but he's never been there after, 9 or 10 or whatever. He shows up, and there is a person that has no head, only has 4 arms, no legs. It's doing like gymnastic twirls and has like a weird mouth on its stomach. And he's like, oh god, this is horrifying. And there's other weird monsters coming out of the other lockers, implied to be obviously previous gym members. And as he's about to leave, Jared shows up and he says too soon. Because this guy was going to slowly lose his mind and slowly want to change his body in a way where he'd have 4 arms. And he runs away. He calls his friend and he tells her about this, and he says, I hope that she was horrified, because otherwise, her tone, she was already in too deep. She wanted to, like, remove her head or whatever.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable episode.
Not getting too far into the self-disclosure here, but I went through a period of time where, like, getting better at running and weight loss were my special interests, and even in real life, you weren't super into the whole, like, body modification, get your perfect self.
Yeah, I like it
mindset.
in science fiction. If there's a way to do cyberpunk that wasn't awful, like getting a brain chip in your brain that lets you do calculations or something, or like if you are an amputee, it'd be cool to have like a robot arm that could actually have like the tactile movements and stuff. But I don't like meat modification of the body, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah. Repo Man was not, or Repo the Genetic Opera was not your favorite musical.
No.
The music is so banging, though.
The music is great. I watched the movie because I'd heard the music and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh, this is, in my opinion, this is awful.
This was my litmus test for you. It was very early into our relationship and I went, oh, this is a soft boy. I gotta be careful what I show this man.
Got myself a Martin, not an Elias. Martin in the streets, Elias in the sheets.
Okay. Quick aside.
Oh my god, what?
Which Magnus Archives character are you? Who do you most personally relate to?
John's an asshole, so probably John. I'm not saying that I want to be an asshole. I just have to be realistic about myself.
I don't think you're dumb enough to be caught like John was caught. I think you're more of the Tim, insofar as I'm stuck in this situation and I hate it and I'm just going to be angry about it.
Okay, I could see that. So that is it for my scariest, creepiest episodes. Would you like to hear which episodes made my meh list, a new category that I invented for this set of episodes?
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We try to stay positive here, but tell me which ones were on the meh list. Just rapid fire them.
Yeah, okay. Episode 88, Dig. It really was, it's another statement like the one we got from Jane Prentice where she's like, bugs have their own songs. I love bugs. And it was the claustrophobia guy, or a claustrophobia avatar. But he was just like, we love to dig. Okay. We find out that the dig, or the claustrophobia and the sky are at odds with each other.
Of course.
Who would have thought it, right? But yeah, there just wasn't much to this episode that really got me.
I think this episode is creepier reading the description in the wiki than
Okay.
it was when I actually listened to it, because it didn't stand out much to me, enough so that when I saw it on your list, I was like, I don't even remember what this episode was. But I guess he like dug through a person and that's what he went to jail for, and that's spooky.
Yes. And then he was trying to dig through the Magnus Institute, and he mentioned like there's something down there
You've
that we all
got a good
want.
quote on our list. But the thing he was digging for under the Institute was a hollow space that all eyes point toward.
All eyes point toward. So yeah, see, there's lore relevance to that, which is very fascinating. But overall, I also like the idea of a cursed book that's just like a single word over and over again. It's dig, dig, dig. But yeah, just overall, I don't think the claustrophobia is the most interesting of opponents. I hope that season 4 is not, we're going to stop the claustrophobia ritual. It sounds like Gertrude stopped it from some of the other hints we've been getting.
Gertrude stopped the spiral. Gertrude stopped claustrophobia, because that was the pit, I think, is what was going on there. I think she was the woman who showed up at the end.
We know she stopped the fire.
We know she stopped the fire. John has now talked to the stranger. I think Spider, maybe. But we can get to that in predictions.
Yeah.
What else was on your list of meh?
I feel so bad. Absent without leave, that's the Italian soldiers one. And I think I realized, like, it seems clear to me that to Johnny Sims, war is an awful thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Joel, what the heck?
War is an awful thing, and lives are lost, and it's terrible. At the same time, it's kind of one of those, like,
it's too remote for you.
What do you call it? A tautology, right? Like, war is bad. Shooting someone is bad. Setting someone on fire is bad. And I don't know, I don't quite connect with them because it is too distant, and it also feels like it's the same horror every time. There was a person who fought in a war, and the war was awful.
One of Johnny Sims' skills as a writer is making these characters people rather than just caricatures, and I feel like he does a really good job of getting inside the heads of people, even people that you might go, this is just a bad person, right? Like that prison guard from last season.
Yep.
So this episode opens with the statement giver going, I'm not a fascist.
Right.
I did fight for a fascist regime, but it wasn't about the fascism.
Yeah. Which is a very interesting take that we could discuss if this were a political stance podcast.
But it's not.
But it's not. And it shouldn't be.
Never.
We don't know anything. And then episode 99, what was I just saying about the claustrophobia episodes? The main episode, again, is not really interesting to me, but then there's some very important lore notes, I think.
It's interesting, too, because early on we had some claustrophobia episodes that were extremely scary.
The cave is the best one so far.
Lost John's Cave, I think, might be one of the scariest episodes in the series as a whole. And when we finish the series, we'll do a recap of, like, what were the scariest episodes.
God, do I have to re-listen to all 200 episodes, or do I just go off of memory? Because if it was good enough, I would remember it. So, episode 99, a guy goes to a town where there was frequent dust storms. I can't remember. Dust Bowl's not the name of the actual storm. It's just like the weather pattern that happened. But basically, he meets a guy who seems to be dying, and he's dying of
dust inhalation?
There's a certain word for it. It's something flu. It's like dust flu or something. And so he and his friend try to get this man into the car and try to take him to the hospital because otherwise he will die, but he's already dead. And then the dust storm hits, and then the dead man comes alive and says a bunch of, apparently the wiki lists them as pseudo-prophecies, or Gertrude calls them pseudo-prophecies, but then the dead guy grabs the speaker's friend and drags him out of the car, and then when the dust storm passes, the friend is dead, but the zombie that dragged him out is just nowhere to be seen, because he was never alive in the first place. Or he died a long time ago, and it was just his ghost that was interacting. And let me tell you something. I've listened to this episode 4 times. The first time was on my own. I think I was driving home or something, and I was like, I'm having a really hard time paying attention to this episode. Maybe I'm tired. And then you and I were driving somewhere. It was your first time listening to the episode, and we listened to the whole thing, and partway through I was like, I'm not getting it. I'm not paying attention. I re-listened to it for this episode. I got halfway through, and I was like, oh, I should start from the beginning, because I'm not absorbing any of this. And that's it. This is the most meh episode that has med ever. To me.
Was this the episode that I also was like, I'm not paying attention to this?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, no offense.
Yeah, it did have some lore relevance.
It absolutely did. So, Gertrude mentions someone about John Kilbride being up there, so probably the Daedalus. And you asked me, like, oh, is that the one we already heard from? I think the episode was called Personal Space. And no, the episode was called Observer Effect. This guy will show up in an episode called Personal Space that we'll be covering next episode. So she knows about the Daedalus, and she knows about that specific experiment, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Gertrude's... What?
Why did she mention him in conjunction with the Dirt episode? Did he have something to do with the Dust Bowl?
Listen, man, it's been like 2 weeks since I listened to this episode because we took a break.
Oh, God, I was believing in you as the keeper of all knowledge. Okay, moving on.
All right, are you ready for the quote that I was able to find and look up?
I'm ready.
For the buried, however, name drop! true. I do have what I believe might be quite an effective plan forming, speaking of, like, another ritual. Assuming, of course, that my suspicions about Jon Kilbride are correct, and that's something that should be easy enough to determine once he's back on Earth. Considering what's probably happened to him up there already, I feel almost bad. But there's 10 years yet before I can afford a conscience.
How many...
Spoilers! No, yeah. No, that's okay.
You can bleep out all of that.
Okay, but...
Except you saying spoilers.
Just... What is Gertrude capable of? Who can stop Gertrude? Apparently Elias.
I love the 10 years before I can afford a conscience. Is she pretty sure that if she gets through the next 10 years, she'll have interrupted all of
I wrote that down, so I'm wondering, it's one of two things. Either she is being hyperbolic, like it's 5 years too early for you to worry about defeating me or something like that. But there's also the possibility that there's a specific date that she knows is super important, and after that point, she'll kind of like be done. This statement was taken that was recorded in 2007. So 10 years later would be 2017. We are in current year 2017 in these episodes. Jon in present day is in 2017.
You know what's wild?
What's that?
Next year's going to be it's going to be 2026. I thought it was going to be 2027.
Off by one error.
And I was all excited that we were like 10 years away from when Jon is doing his business. Do you think this is cyclical, like Stephen King's It? Like when you interrupt the horrors coming to full power, do you have 20 years or something before the next cycle starts?
I mean, future knowledge, but yes, that's absolutely the case. I mean, like, if this was the first time that the Buried ever did a ritual, or if this was the first time a ritual ever happened, like, what are the chances that it's now, and what are the chances that they were able to stop the first one from How was the first ritual stopped? We know that sometimes the horrors fight each other, so maybe up until now, the horrors have been too busy stabbing each other, so none of them have been able to...
You can't have your ritual, I will have my ritual!
It's like, they're all trying to race to the finish line, but instead of focusing on getting there, they're more focused on breaking the kneecaps of the other runners, and they're all just, like, stuck at the starting line, just be like, no, screw you! Okay. This one is important, and I think at one point we were talking off mic and you're like, is this really important? But re-listening to the episode, Jon, the character, freaks out about it, so it is supposed to be a connection. Gertrude's assistant is heard on tape. He has the same voice as Michael McTwisty. His name is Michael. And Jon has like an existential crisis about what this means. We already had an earlier episode where Jon was like, did all of these things start out as human and then become monsters? Even though McTwisty was very clear that he doesn't have something like a name, and he doesn't know how to describe himself. So something weird is going on here, and maybe we'll get more details.
You remember when Elias was like, Jon, your assistants aren't your friends?
Yes.
I think the assistants exist to serve a purpose. Oh, man.
Gertrude also mentions that the hunt might be in the United States, which is very interesting because the first time we ever saw the hunt, it was in the Appalachians. I don't think we've gotten another episode that was about the hunt, really, that was in anywhere. We don't have any from America. We don't have any from the United States, or from England, I don't think.
I love the hunt selecting the U.S. as its, like, heart. Not just because we have a problem with gun violence compared to other countries.
We do.
Which we do. Yeah. This is not a politics podcast.
Did something happen recently that would maybe... Sorry.
You should be sorry. Be quiet. But also because we kind of take this for granted, right? But North America has predators at a scale that does not exist in European countries.
Predator people or predator animals?
Predator animals.
Okay.
Like, they do not have grizzly bears in England, right?
Okay, yeah.
They don't have big ass wolves in England. They might have regular wolves, but they don't have big ass wolves. So, like, this is a place of wild danger, even discounting other social cultural problems that may exist.
I see. I guess this might be like a racism, or it might be like the Americans only really know about their own country or whatever. But I would think that like the African wildlands or Australia.
That's why I didn't say we're the only place, because there are large predators, obviously, in different places in Africa. I actually don't know. I think the largest predator in Australia is the saltwater crocodile. I would have to look that up. Don't fact check me. But I don't know if they have a lot of
They have a lot of, like, poison spiders and snakes, but they don't have, like, big animals that are going to get you.
Yeah, I don't think they have big wolves.
They have kangaroos with guns, though. I have seen that on social media
boxing
going
gloves,
around.
Right?
Exactly. The boxing gloves that extend like robot punches.
Anyway.
This is the last thing, and it's really such a tiny note. Michael mentions... the assistant Michael mentions that they're about to install a environment controller, environment sealed room. That's the room that Martin slept in, which makes me wonder if it was being installed for an anti-horror thing, and that's exactly what Martin used it for. If it's just coincidence that they just needed a room that was temperature or climate controlled. Climate control.
You're such a nerd.
Absolutely.
I think Johnny Sims put a bunch of lore in this episode because he knew the episode was boring and he needed something to incentivize people to listen to the whole thing.
That is entirely possible.
That's my conspiracy theory.
So that is talking about all of these episodes in general.
Yeah. Switching back over to our outline. Really quick, any 2 a.m. sightings?
There was the one that I mentioned that was at 2:40, which was the bed episode tucked in. In episode 97, We All Ignore the Pit. I love that episode title. That might be my favorite episode title, other than Uncanny Valley, because that's such a good pun.
I feel like We All Ignore the Pit, like, speaks to my, like, we all know there's something in our lives that isn't right, but we're just not looking at it.
Absolutely. Also, I appreciate it because the pit was also a plot point in Parks and Rec. So, you know, I can now connect Andy Dwyer and Martin Blackwood.
The pit. I fell in it, the pit.
Anyways, this is the only other episode from these 20 episodes that has a 2 a.m. sighting. The guy wakes up at 2 when the town gets eaten. When all of the people are walking towards the pit, it's at 2 in the morning when they're doing it. So that's very interesting.
Absolutely. And I do think you mentioned earlier in the episode that Johnny stopped putting 2 a.m. quite as often.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to talk about that's not in our outline, and I might have forgot to bring it up if I don't speak about it right this second. The episode 90, Michael McSky Brother, Michael McSky Daddy. In that episode, he mentioned something that makes me feel like an idiot because you got it immediately, and I'm sure everyone else listening got it immediately. I didn't get it. In the episode where he lets this guy take him, he was being chased by a monster. And you said, what was that monster? And I was like, isn't it the sky? And you're like, but he was claimed by the sky. Those must be two separate things. And obviously they must be two separate things. But, like, I just couldn't imagine what horror could be related to storms that wasn't the storm.
And I said, I think it's the spiral because lightning is fractal.
Lightning is fractal, Lichtenberg scars are fractal, and that's exactly it, right? He got the scar when he was young, and Michael McTwisty kept screwing with his senses because that's explicitly what the spiral is for. So you were right, you got it immediately. I don't think I said that you were wrong, I just had a different interpretation, but I just completely missed that one.
Catherine was right counter goes up by ding.
The other thing, I think maybe we mentioned this, maybe we didn't. Here's the thing. Where's the thing? It's right here. I'm talking about it currently on the news. John is running afoul of the horrors. So one of these episodes ends with him doing his post-statement. He's like, I wonder what this means. What is Elias trying to tell me? And he hears circus music in the background. And he goes, that's not good. But then it stops. And, like, the next time we get an episode with him, he's talking to Georgie, and he's like, look, things are bad. If you ever hear circus music, that's bad. And she's like, oh, it is bad. Okay. But then in a later episode, the power goes out. It's not the darkness. You'd really think that it was. But a strangely cheery voice goes, oh, hello there. It's a female voice. And she tells him not to turn the light on because he won't like what he sees. She talks about how her father was, something else Orsanov. I can't remember. It starts with a G, I think. Gregonor Orsanov. And she killed him, but she made sure that she used every part of him. What? And she basically tells John, like, look, I need you to find the skin from the taxidermy episode, like the oldest pelt that has ever been from a skinned animal. And he goes, why would I be able to find it? And she goes, well, because Gertrude had it. He goes, Gertrude had it. And she's like, yeah, you're not really keeping up with this. You have until I get bored to find the skin. What's really interesting about this is when we were listening to this like one episode a day or one episode every couple of days, it really felt like a long time before she changed her mind and decided, I'm bored now, I don't want you to get the skin. It's literally the next episode that Jonathan Sims has a speaking line in. At the end of the episode, Breakin and Hope just show up and just kidnap our boy.
Our poor archivist. The second time he's been kidnapped this season. Also, we have to talk about it. I loved Michael's first appearance. I loved how unsettling he was. I loved his voice acting. Does
Michael McTwisty or Michael the assistant?
Michael McTwisty.
Okay, yeah.
Does Nicola stack up?
Yes.
She's so spooky. I'm plastic, silly.
I don't have a voice box. I had to borrow it from someone else.
Oh, she's so creepy. I love her.
I feel like there's two different types of horrors. There's the like, I just want to you up. And then there's the like, I'm having fun with it.
I'm playing with
and
you.
And McTwisty and Nicola are the two that fit that description so far.
And I'm much more scared of I'm enjoying this, I'm playing games with you.
Yes.
Than I'm just doing
Oh,
it.
yeah, McTwisty saying, like, I'm just seeing if John can defeat the not Sasha. He's probably going to die. I'm just going to watch because this is fun. Like, that is an evil Mr. Mixaplex. Not that Mr. Mixaplex is a very good guy to begin with, but let's go back to our outline.
My dad, while you're doing that, my dad had a theory he told me when I was young that he thought... Do you remember the do it for the lulz days of, like, 4chan and Anonymous? He thought that was the highest version of evil. He thought that doing things just for your own amusement was like the sign of a pure evil person, because like you can justify anything if it's funny. As long as you're having a good time, right? Nothing means anything.
I would agree with that, and I also think that has evolved into something with even more overtly sinister roots, but this is not a political podcast.
Moving on.
So I had a theory, and I don't think it's a very strong theory, but I tried to ask myself, could each season be broken down into a single question that is trying to be solved? Because this is a mystery podcast, right? I never watched The X-Files, but a friend of the podcast said that every season they get one more piece of information about the ultimate enemy that they're fighting. And so I was wondering, can you break down these seasons that way? And I don't think you can. It doesn't cleanly delineate. What I came up with was season 1, are the horrors real, right? Because the culmination of that season is Jane Prentice shows up, and the entire through line of John is, this isn't real, this is drugs, this is a dream, this is someone making something up, there's no details to corroborate. And then it ends with, oh, the bugs are crawling into my skin, trying to eat me. So, were the horrors real? And then the second season was like, who killed Gertrude? What's going on with that? And it kind of ends with Leitner being like, I think that Elias is evil. I think that Elias did it. Here's a little bit more about what the horrors actually are. So maybe that's a secondary question. Or maybe that's the primary question, and Gertrude is the secondary question. And then season 3 has a lot of interesting, like, who are the avatars of the horrors? Because we get 2 direct statements from Jude Perry and Michael McSkydaddy. And then we will get something about how Michael McTwisty came to be, and we got something about the Dig avatar reading the book. So it seems like there's a lot of, here's what the servants of the horrors look like.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would say part of that question, too, could be, what does it mean to be an avatar of the horrors?
Yeah.
Because this is John kind of coming to terms with the fact that he's already in.
Yeah, what is a human? What does it look like for someone to become...
I think the question for season 4, if we stick to this, is, my man John, you good?
Let's talk about the word okay.
Let's do it. Okay.
Give some background information for those who don't remember the season 3 QA.
In the season 3 Q&A, and I actually think this question was in the season 2 Q&A about season 3.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant, from the previous Q&A.
Yes. So in the season 2 Q&A, somebody asked, is Martin going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And Martin's voice actor, who has a name, says, I'm really invested in the answer of this question. And Johnny laughs and he goes, no.
Right.
And
let me be as perfectly clear as possible. No.
And Martin's like, no. And Johnny's like, yeah, nobody's going to be okay.
Right.
So to me, first of all, that was Johnny poking fun at his friend and saying, I'm going to kill off your character.
Okay.
And second of all, it was Johnny going, yeah, eventually everybody's gonna die. This is a horror podcast. Nobody lives.
The final girl. One of them has to be the final girl.
One of them has to be the final girl, and it's gonna be Elias, because he's having a hot girl summer.
Wait, no, hang on. I need to come up with the stupidest answer possible. The final girl will be Gertrude Robinson having fused with Mary Key. They will come back from the dead.
That's what happens when old ladies get married. No. So jumping ahead to the end of the season, I'm not going to give spoilers, but broadly, Martin, specifically, Martin's okay. He didn't die. Now,
okay.
Joel says Martin's having emotions, so he's not okay. Well, if that's the case, then he hasn't been okay this whole time, and it wasn't a question worth answering.
Now, I'm going to try to have a civil conversation. I'm going to try to lead with love, right? Martin is the babyest member of the group. He's the baby of the group. He cries so much. Okay. But he's the most emotional. He's, I believe, the youngest, and he wants everything to be okay. He keeps trying to give tea to people. He keeps trying to have talks to people. People aren't talking to him. People aren't being nice to him. So I think that the person was asking, is he going to get to an emotionally okay place?
Is his spirit going to break?
Will they eventually get through all of the horrors and he'll be able to, like, live on the countryside, like, just scar-free? And I think that Johnny's answer is basically they're all going to carry scars from their experiences. And so I think that's why they asked about Martin specifically. They didn't ask, like, is John going to make it? They said, is Martin going to be okay? And I think him saying no one's going to be okay is like, yeah, I'm going to torture these characters. Not necessarily with death. There could be things worse than death. We might find out about something that is worse than death that happens next episode. Not next episode, but the next couple of episodes.
You know what's worse than death? Finding a bug in your pancakes. It just flew in the
Especially if it's just, like, crawling or something like
No! I didn't eat Reese's peanut butter cups until I was 23 years old because my grandpa found a worm in one once. Don't even say that to me.
I'm so sorry.
I am not okay. But no, so I really thought it was like a cheeky, like, I'm going to kill off your character.
Yeah.
One of the issues Joel and I have had enjoying media together in the past is that
one of us is very dumb, and it's me.
I don't always have the correct emotions in response to things. And neither do you, right? You've said that sometimes you watch something and nothing happens, and then the next time you watch it, you're, like, bawling, and you don't know why it didn't make you sad the first time.
Yeah. My favorite character in My Hero Academia is Bakugo, even though he's an asshole, a bully, and he has he doesn't have the emotional capacity to be a hero.
You don't have to defend yourself here. Bakugo's not real. I know you're not justifying his actions.
Bakugo is just having a hot girl summer every day of his life.
Now we can defend anyone we love that way.
For the lulz!
Doflamingo, hot girl summer. But listen to me. So, like, there have been anime scenes that were obviously supposed to be sad that made me laugh really, really hard because the character's behavior was so silly.
The voice acting and stuff, yeah.
Right. Even though the scene itself was not funny. And you, when we first started dating, you were like, oh, you're a psycho. Maybe I don't want to date you because that's weird. I think you've mostly adjusted to it. But in cases like this, when I get really stuck on, like, well, he is okay. Like, he didn't take any physical harm. He's not dead. You're like, he's not emotionally okay. And I'm like, I don't care about that.
You also have the tism, my lord. So I would say no spoilers, but I think that Martin almost got the most punching bag out of these episodes.
That's true. I feel like there's a range of perfectly fine to not okay. And I feel like there are some characters who are currently less okay than Martin.
Oh, of course there are people who are less
Emotionally,
okay.
certainly, he's probably having the hardest time. And, like, I feel very bad for him. Get some therapy. Men will literally confront the horrors rather than go to therapy. But I don't think he's the most not okay. And so to say nobody's going to be okay, to me, says they're all going to end up in that least okay place. So that was just a little fun disagreement we had that definitely didn't turn into shouting off mic. Tell us in the comments.
Mommy and Daddy are not getting a divorce. It's not because of the specific phrasing of season 2 Q&A.
God, can you imagine writing Jonathan Sims a letter and being like, you are responsible for my divorce because we couldn't agree about the definition of the word okay?
Goodness gracious.
I'd go to England. I'd find him. Now I'm the stranger who means you harm.
Okay. Except you're mostly human, I would say.
Mostly.
Since the incident, not quite 100%, but you know. Okay, this is a really stupid thing that should have gone in the meme portion of this episode, but with John and Elias being confrontational with each other, with John demanding answers and Elias being like, no, you're not getting answers. I came up with a way to bring back one of your favorite memes, and it's John pointing a gun at Elias's head, demanding that he tell him the name of God as a fungal piece of shit, as a watcher of the universe.
Watcher at the rib. I love that meme, and I feel like that meme fits in so well with the ethos of the Magnus Archives.
It's so nihilistic and so like, what is happening here? What's going on?
Decay exists as an extant form of life. What does that mean, OP?
Thank you, John Amherst. Thank you so much. We appreciate your contributions here. Now, this is, spoiler, future knowledge that you don't have. It will be as part of the Season 4 Q&A. Don't ask why I have so much knowledge from the Season 4 Q&A. When you're on the wiki, sometimes you see a little trivia fact. Eventually, do you remember the Garbage Collector episode?
We just talked about it.
What?
The
episode.
I do remember. I thought you meant the Garbage Pit episode.
Right. But
yes.
The episode, where they found, like, dolls' heads, and then they found, like, a burnt, like, scripture piece of paper or whatever. Johnny will eventually explain Homestead of the Horrors from this episode, and I found the answer fascinating. So now knowing what you know, I will tell you that the Homestead of the Horrors for that was a prototype version of someone we have met, of one of the horrors we have met. And knowing what we know about how the horrors interact and how they're kind of like, they're not cleanly divisible, but how the hunt probably isn't going to look like a doll. What do you think was happening in that episode?
I think the Stranger and the Desolation had like a safe house in common.
Okay.
And they were vibing.
They were cohabitating. They were big brothering it.
Because the doll's head and the teeth definitely give Stranger.
Right.
And then the burned parchment gives Jared Key, but also, I guess, could have been the Desolation.
Yes. I would have assumed that it was the Stranger or the Spiral just trying to, like, mess with you and, like, make you ask, like, who would do this and why. The answer. And I absolutely have no idea. And it is a prototype. Maybe Johnny will explain how it went from the way it was written in episode 5 or whatever to how it showed up later. This was a prototype version of the Hans. And I have
Of the what?
Of the Hans, the meat people. The guy at the meat processing plant, and then the guy who had the takeout shop.
I'm sorry, I thought the Hans, like, a weird way of saying the Huns?
Oh,
like from
okay.
China?
Yeah. Or
okay.
the clones of Han Solo.
But this was a prototype version of Meat People. No, Johnny, you didn't know what you were doing back then. That's wrong.
Teeth is kind of related to people, but the other ones really don't seem connected. And again, maybe he'll explain how that came through. But I just wanted to ask that question before we knew the knowledge to see if you could pick apart the answer.
Knew the knowledge. New.
All right. These are all my questions. I'm a very curious man. I want to hear your take on this. So we know that someone reading the dig book, if they're already obsessed with digging, it can push them into becoming an avatar. Michael McSkydaddy read a book about heights, and he was like, oh, I love heights. He read a book about the rod, and he's like, this isn't for me. Jane Prentice said that certain other things weren't for her. The Magnus Archives people, they're reading statements that sometimes give very explicit details about horrors happening. And being scared of the horrors is how the horrors get you. Are they protected from being taken in by the horrors? Or if Martin reads a bunch of, I don't know, Stranger episodes, or Jonathan Sims, we know doesn't like spiders, if he keeps reading spider episodes, is he being pushed towards becoming a spider avatar?
I don't think so. I think Lucas saying Elias is really protective of his people was a hint that reading the statements alone is not going to endanger you, and people can't just pull up into the Institute and mess with the eyes people. I think the reason that Jane Prentice was able to do it was because Martin or whoever, John, knocked a hole in the wall and let them in. Sasha went and was messing with the table, so that was why she could get taken.
Okay.
But in general, I don't think they can just come claim you from the eye.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't know if everyone at the Institute is connected to the eye. I have a theory about Martin. I think John is connected to the Eye. Elias, absolutely. I am loving it.
Anybody who reads statements, I think,
Is
starts
slightly
to be
protected.
Starts to be under the Eye.
Okay, yeah, and you can only be spoken for by one horror at a time, it seems like. We've never met someone who's like, I can throw people off buildings and set them on fire. God, could you imagine you're falling and you're like, oh, this is peaceful because apparently this is my life now. And then you're also on fucking fire.
That would be not great.
That would be worse. That would be less okay than just falling.
I love that you feel the need to make fun of me every time the Vast comes up. Like, it's not my fault that those episodes aren't scary.
All right. Rapid fire. We've been recording for over an hour with pause breaks to let the dogs outside. So, in one episode, John is not at the Institute for quite a bit of these episodes, and even after he gets welcomed back, he's still living with Georgie and, like, not really interacting with the Institute. But Elias is sending him statements, and several of them have to do with the stranger, I think. I can't remember. One of them had Jude Perry's name, so it might be Elias saying, go talk to Jude Perry. But he sends him the Pit episode. And at the end of the episode, Jonathan Sims says, why did Elias send this to me? And remember, my theory is anytime Jonathan asks a question, he wants us to ask as well. Why did he?
Okay. I hinted at this earlier. Spoilers for the second half of season 3. But Gertrude at the end of this episode says, right, that she's got this person that she thinks she can pair up with the Pit. What's...
The Buried.
The Buried.
Which, by the way, she names as well. So,
right.
Bing, 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 bing.
Bing, 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 bing. So I think that you can interrupt their becoming by feeding a person to them, because that disrupts the systems. If it's a person who was not part of it already. So I think that Elias sent John this to prepare him for the eventuality of the unknowing. To be like, hey... maybe you'll have to feed somebody to it.
Not only that, but the end of the episode had an old lady who showed up with someone with blue eyes who was crying, which I think might be Martin, because that's the only name we've gotten of anyone associated with her other than, like,
You
Jared.
mean Michael?
What did I say?
Martin.
Yeah, I meant Michael.
Yeah.
Michael and Martin very similar, and their names are similar, but they also fulfill similar roles in terms of, like, being emotional and being baby.
Poor Michael.
Yeah. But, anyways... I think, is Michael okay? Discuss. He's technically still alive as a spiral. But is that him?
Is that alive?
But I think that maybe it was a little bit of meta knowledge of Elias kind of like letting him know like what Gertrude was doing and how she was fighting the rituals. Because at this point, Jonathan already knows the rituals can be stopped because Elias said so.
Yeah, Elias can't, directly tell John this is how you do it, but he can sidestep in a... Gertrude was doing something. What could it be?
You get one... We find out that Jonathan can only read so many statements because they take a mental toll on him. And so he has an ultimate that takes time to recharge in a fighting game or an MMORPG. Yes, exactly. So maybe he was like, if you're only going to get one statement this week, let it be one that mentions Gertrude. I don't want you to take 100 where 3 of them are relevant and just pick one at random. Very quick note. Martin in an episode, he mentions the Lucas family? No. He meant Maxwell Rayner. He reads one of Maxwell Rayner's statements, or a statement that mentions him. And Martin says, I know John has mentioned Maxwell Rayner, but I can't find it in here. John's notes are so disorganized.
And that was a big complaint that John had about Gertrude.
Yes.
So maybe part of being the archivist is you have a perfect understanding of how everything is laid out and where all your notes are, but the Eye doesn't want that information to just be available to anybody.
Well, and Elias said you could only learn by, like, experiencing, and apparently reading recordings is the same as... Anyways, it doesn't matter. But basically, by disorganizing the notes, it becomes harder for the next person to just read and learn academically rather than experiencing. That could also explain Gertrude had several different organization systems or something as one of the things she ordered online. Maybe if you organize it super complexity, maybe it makes it harder for the Eye to disrupt it.
Or maybe she was trying to organize things and none of the systems worked, and that's why she got so many different systems.
Okay, yeah, she was going down the list one at a time. All right, you mentioned in the first half of this episode that you wanted to talk about the Admiral, that we needed to talk about the Admiral.
We do.
MVP of the series, obviously.
Georgie has a cat, and he's just a little guy. He's not a horror. He's not a spooky. He's just a cat. And Johnny was very clear that nothing's going to happen to that goddamn cat.
and Jonathan at one point says, if anything should happen to you, or God forbid the Admiral. And I mean, I do think that there's an element of we must protect animals because they don't understand, whereas people can try to protect themselves. But yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah. We also get to learn more about John through Georgie in season 3. And it turns out he is an Arrow Ace King. He just doesn't do relationships. They sort of tried dating, and Georgie was like, she doesn't seem to have any malice toward John. Like, it didn't end badly. It just wasn't a relationship.
Yeah, well, and he just doesn't seem to do relationships, and he has that obsessive like compulsion to like be at the Institute. So I really do think that he's losing touch with other people. And Georgia keeps insisting that connections with other people are what save you.
Yeah, that's a look at the camera moment. Like, this is how you get not got by the horrors, man.
Yes. Let me try to go through these episodes and see if there's anything that we forgot to mention. Did I mention that Melanie is working for the Magnus Institute?
I think you mentioned that she's working for the Magnus Institute. You didn't mention what she's doing there. What's she been up to?
She's reading statements. Like, what do you mean? What is she? Okay, so first off...
She wants to have a hot girl summer of her own, but Elias's hot girl summer activities are in the way.
He's got the hotter, girlier summer happening. But no, Melanie shows up and Elias comes to talk to her. And he mentions that he watched What the Ghost. Or no, she wasn't What the Ghost. It was Ghost Hunter UK. And he says, Elias, you asshole, your techniques were rudimentary, but you showed surprising promise on occasion.
How nice.
How nice.
Ish.
But he offers her a job, and I believe Martin makes a sound of like, no, please don't.
Don't take this job.
Don't take this job. It's very bad. We have a later episode where Elias strong arms Basira into signing up to being part of the Institute, and Tim is there, and Tim is also like, no, please don't, and John's like, no. They don't seem to be able to convince people not to sign it or be able to explain why it would be such a bad idea.
Elias's Conqueror's hockey is stronger than John's.
Yes.
And Martin just has none.
Martin has no hockey at all?
No Conqueror's hockey. I could see an argument for observation hockey.
Yeah, I think I alluded to this, but my theory is that Martin will be... I mean, you've already said you think that it makes sense for Martin to become the next archivist, but he clearly is tied to the Eye in a way that the others are not. They basically make this super explicitly clear, but Daisy is also spoken for. She has the hunt. She has the same thing that Trevor had, and we're pretty sure that Trevor was the hunt
Gotta
as well.
keep killing.
Gotta keep killing things. I love this. I think this is in the memes as well, but Basira is talking to Martin about John, and she says something about like, you know, I kind of miss him. He was kind of funny. And Martin's like, funny? What do you mean? He doesn't do jokes. It's just like, maybe you weren't paying attention to the right things or whatever. And so Martin just like, what? Someone liking John? That doesn't sound like the man I love. He's an asshole.
Yeah. I don't know if Johnny was told that he was making Martin's crush too subtle in season 1, but they've really just amped up the look at the camera, he wants to touch the archivist's butt. And, like, I still don't ship it. I don't like it. I don't like Martin x John, and I will never like it, and I don't support it.
Fair enough. I do wonder if this is one of those things that they change, because, you know, Johnny had the plot generally figured out, but they make changes here and there. I'm pretty sure that Melanie was the character that he alluded to, where he was asked, like, have there ever been characters that take on a life of their own? He's like, yeah, sometimes they come in and they do such a good job with the voice acting that we want them to be part of this later. And I think that was Melanie. She was supposed to be a one-off, and now she's back. But I wonder if the relationship was one of those things. Was Martin and John planned from the start? Or did the way that they write Martin naturally make people ship it? And as John read on the Reddit that people ship it, he was like, sure, why not? You know?
Yeah. Would you start shipping characters in your story because your fans shipped it? I think you would. I think you'd be like, why not give the people what they want?
It depends on, like, if I already had, like, a plan for their relationship. Like, if someone was in a monogamous relationship and I thought that it was important to them that they'd only ever have one partner and they wouldn't cheat, I wouldn't, but, you know. Very, very important. In the episode 93 Contaminant, I didn't really have anything to say. Georgie and John are talking, and she mentions the movie Die Hard. Die Hard is canon. The movie Die Hard is canon to the Magnus Archives universe.
Now the important question is, does John consider the Die Hard a Christmas movie or not?
Elias has looked around the world, he's seen into eyes, and he knows definitively what the people's opinion is.
Yeah. By the way, it is a Christmas movie. You can't fight me. I will win. Not Joel. Joel already knows I'll win that fight.
I talked about the World War II Italian soldier episode. I did not go into too many details. Martin's the one who's reading this statement, and the soldier who said, like, I'm not a fascist, I just have a problem with loyalty, he kind of laughs. He's like, loyalty. And one of the comments on the YouTube said, oh, not Martin laughing because he relates, sadly, to it. And I would agree that it was intentional, the laugh, and I will agree that it is characterization. I disagree that Martin was laughing at his own situation because he was in reader mode.
Yeah,
when you're
he was
in reader
lost
mode,
in the sauce.
Yeah, but that was the writers telling us that Martin has a loyalty problem. Will John shoot Martin in order to protect the Magnus Institute? Discuss. Also in this episode, Basira is really enjoying her time at the Institute. She's been reading a bunch. She knows it well. She reads a bunch and she gets so absorbed in it that she won't notice other people around her. Martin starts talking about, like, his personal experiences, like, I'm not sleeping well or whatever, and then she's like, oh, hi, I'm here. And he's like, whoa, you were here? Did you hear any of that? And she goes, hear any of what?
I don't think she is enjoying this. I think she's dissociating.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, if you make yourself so completely boring, maybe the eye stops noticing you. Maybe that's how she's going to escape.
I don't know if I wrote this down. There was one of these episodes. Oh, it might be part 2. I apologize if this is small spoilers, but there's a part where two people are talking and they start discussing other people's, like, romantic lives and, like, who they might date or if they're not interested in dating or that kind of a thing. And the archivist or the assistant who was reading was going to add something. They go, I have one more note, and then they get interrupted by this other character and they talk about relationships. And then they go, do you still have to give that extra detail that you're going to give? And I'm pretty sure it's Melanie, and she goes, no, actually, I don't remember what I was going to say. So here's my idea. The eye has moments when it's absorbing information, and it has times when it's not. That's why you have to do the statement begins. It can only eat so much information at a time, and if you feed it nonsense, that's still information, because they were discussing whether John is gay. I don't think that was it, right? But, like, whether Martin's ever been in a serious relationship, and that question being asked replaced the piece of information about the actual file they were reading. Yep. And that's just fascinating.
Yeah, what other nonsense can we feed the eye, and can that affect Elias? Find out next time on TFS Plays.
They just overload Elias with, like, Rule 34 or, like, a subreddit that's just full of useless information.
We didn't finish talking about what Melanie's been doing.
What, Melanie?
She's trying to kill Elias.
Oh, yeah. I guess I was talking about her getting the job. After Elias says, hey, if I die, you will all die. Also, I'm the beating heart of the Institute. Melanie's decided that the best way to escape the Institute is to kill Elias. And he's too good at that. Just like how we knew that Basira was going to come and try and kill him. Just like he caught wind of Gertrude wanting to destroy the Institute and he killed her. He also knew that Melanie was going to try to poison him. And he goes, hey, first time's free. Please don't try to kill me. I will know what you're doing. And I can make this much worse for you. Do not test me on this.
And does she listen to that warning?
Well, we've only gotten one attempt on his life so far, so maybe she does listen to that warning.
Maybe she does.
Maybe she does. There's one other thing. We talked about episode 100 and how it was kind of hard to listen to, and I mentioned that all of these stories are supernatural. At the very end of the episode, so there's 4 statement givers, and one of them is the guy who's freaking out about spiders, talking to, I believe it's Melanie. Melanie sees this guy hyperventilating and goes, here, I'll go get you some tea and some cookies and we'll calm the situation down. She leaves. Nathaniel Lucas shows up. The audio gets a little staticky. Maybe he didn't walk in. Maybe he just kind of appeared. That wouldn't surprise me. And he talks to this guy, and that's the line you were talking about Elias is protective of his people. And then he goes, hey, I hope you enjoy your new situation. And I don't think it's explicitly stated, but A, we know what the Lucas family is about. B, I think we get a pretty strong hint. C, we've already had an episode where something like this happens. That guy's in the lonely dimension. The physical world looks the same, but he's by himself. He's been taken off the multiplayer Minecraft server, and now he's in a standalone instance on his local.
Is it at least in creative mode?
I don't believe so.
Ah.
I mean, what happens if you starve yourself in the lonely dimension? Do you die for real, or do you come back out? Because we know that...
Oh, that other guy who was in the lonely dimension, he came back out. So maybe the lonely would let you go because you're not interesting anymore.
Maybe. And there was the woman who went to the graveyard, and I think her dead husband, who was also a Lucas, maybe he had some control over the not dimension, was like, hey, get out of here. And that's all of my notes for these episodes. Do you have anything else that you want to say?
I don't think so. Why don't we hit
so
on some memes? I think next time we listen to some episodes, we have to record right away, because I feel like I have interesting thoughts, but once I've listened to more than that, all of the thoughts mush together.
I see. We could do a mini recording after every episode.
Oh, like we did for Danganronpa.
Yeah, exactly.
We should put that on the channel someday.
Yes. All right, so this comes from Sad Man, except the A in man is a 4, and there's 2 N's. But the way Elias shifts when he starts to read out Daisy's statement, without any paperwork or file, definitely makes me think the eye or beholding or whatever possesses statement recorders / archivists so that they become said person when giving the statement. This would explain why John has to catch his breath after reading a few of the more intense ones.
I.e. Prentice. This one, like, absolutely, right? At this point, that's canon. We talked about this last episode, but this is one of the things that drives me crazy, where everyone was like, do you think John is getting possessed? And I was like, no, he's just reading the statements. This is just it's an audio format, so they want it to be dramatic. But no, everybody was right.
I think it could be either. I don't think that you're supposed to suspect from the beginning. I think that you're supposed to figure it out as you learn more about the eye. I said this before. I think some people cannot help but go back and listen to old episodes and try to sound smart by saying, oh, do you think that Sasha has a connection to the stranger? What do you mean the stranger? What do you mean Sasha? What do you mean do?
Hello, Mr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson?
Yeah. No, I think he's had his license revoked. I'm almost positive.
But he still has the PhD.
I guess
you can't revoke that.
Okay. I really liked how every character... This is from Hey, It's Novalee. I already liked how every character who reads a statement has their own way of introducing them. But Melanie clapping to sync audio because she's used to doing video was such a funny little detail. I love the show.
Yeah. I wouldn't have noticed this if this commenter hadn't pointed it out, but it cracked me up and I noticed it every time after. And like, yeah, you do a podcast with some other people and you guys all clap to sync your audio because you're on different timelines and stuff.
Yeah, no, the first time she clapped, I was like, oh, because she was a YouTuber or whatever, and that made sense. But I do agree that the way that different people read them is funny. In these sets of episodes, there's one where Tim starts reading someone's statement, and he goes like, I don't know, man, this story is about like... I guess there's a guy and he was worried about it and you can hear him flipping through the papers. He's unenthused, and I think that's why he's not of the eye. He's of the eye, he's not of the eye. He mentioned that he tried to take a vacation, but the longer he was away from the archives, he got sicker. So he is connected to the eye, but he's somehow able to thrive off of it without reading statements. That seems to be antithetical to him.
My boy, Sebastian from Uncanny Valley, from The Stove is on Fire, very desolation of you. Sebastian's autistic swag is so damn powerful, he's got all the ghoulies confounded. I want that on my tombstone. She's out there confounding the ghoulies with her autistic swag.
Absolutely. Viv Capish? VIVKAUPISH 7621. Basira, he was nice and funny and I liked him. Martin, that doesn't sound like the man I love. Nobody likes him. I already talked about that, but...
So we sometimes read the transcripts for these episodes because, like, it's hard for me to pay attention to just audio if I'm not doing something like driving or cooking.
Yeah. The times when they make it authentic, they're like, oh, they're in a cave, so the voices should be echoey. Oh, everyone's talking at once, so you shouldn't be able to make them out. I can't make them out!
Yeah, we have audio processing issues, Johnny. But from the transcript, it says, sounds of demonstrative squelching, noises of a horrified archivist.
I have no idea what episode that's related to. I think it might actually really be the later half of the season, but it's so inconspicuous, like, who cares?
Oh, I made this one. I hope you put this one in the thumbnail. So you guys all know the Jane Lynch, I'm gonna create a blank that's so toxic meme from Glee. Listening to John and Elias talk, I did one that's, I'm going to create a yaoi fic that's so toxic.
I feel like there's certain tropes that make people ship each other. Like Shadow and Sonic or Kaiba and Yugi, they're the rivals, so you ship them because their hatred turns into a relationship.
Like they're obsessed with each other.
Right. And that's Elias and John. I can see why you ship them. Mm-hmm. Also, it's just very funny to imagine them as parents where, Martin's crying because Daddy and Daddy are fighting. Dad and Daddy. There you go.
Father and
Dad. We're not going to say Daddy too many times because it has connotations.
Daddies, you may.
I think that we already talked about this one, but really quick, this one's my own thought in our private chat. Elias, I can't simply tell you things, John. You must learn them yourself. Also, Elias, 5 minutes prior, I'm going to read this statement so you can hear it, John. I need you to know this.
And then we have episode 100, Giga Chad escapes the horrors because he remembered he was supposed to have dinner with his mom and just leaves, which is something that we said earlier in the episode, but again,
it deserves shouting out. And it's also, we keep talking about, the autism being the way to escape it, and it's partially that. I think that's an easy way to reduce it down to really basic, but it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing I talked about last episode. You fall to the ground, but you forget to fall, and that's how you fly. You forget to be scared, and the horrors go away.
Yeah.
Except, you can't pretend to not be scared of the horrors. If you put up a blanket and say, I'm protected, it doesn't work.
And connections matter, right? So the fact that he was thinking about his mom and not just some random appointment he had.
Well, and that's the same as the earlier episode, I think it's called Lost in the Crowd, where the woman remembered her mom, and that's how she was able to escape the evil crowd. Absolutely. So, yeah, apparently connections are super important, which is why Johnny and Martin being in a relationship is going to be what saves them. I mentioned, do you think John will put a gun to Martin's head and kill him in order to protect the archives? I think there's going to be a situation exactly like that, but then John will choose not to do the horrible thing because he cares more about Martin.
So he'll have a crossroads where he could become Elias or he could be better, and he'll choose to not become Elias.
Exactly. It's like that one awesome scene from Oathbringer with Yasna and Renarin. Oh, nope.
I'm sorry, I saw a meme for our next episode and it made me smile.
In our document, I have a section, because we listened to the episodes we'll cover in this episode and episode 6. I have a header that says episode 6 stuff, do not reference when recording episode 5, and I was about to read the first thing from it. I missed the bold, giant 64-point font message.
So, obviously, we can't really do much speculating for the next half of this season, but I am very much looking forward to talking about the episodes with you all, and hopefully we will record that very soon. Next episode of What Now? Get ready for the horrorest of horrors. Spiders, hunt, Trevor, naked, mom, argument, police, fleeing the scene, hiding in a dumpster, crashing on Elias's couch for a week, because technically John's homeless.
Be prepared for pour some lore on me, baby!
And that has been your
final thought. Goes here. What is wrong with my brain?
A lot of stuff.
Well, friends, all journeys must end. And now today's journey has finished, and we must bid you goodbye. We hope you have a good day, we hope you are kind to those around you, and we'll see you again. If you want to contact the show, you can do so at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel or rate us on your podcatcher of choice.